Franklin County Board of County Commissioners regular session for April 20th is now in session. It's good to be here today. Commissioner Lockley will be with us shortly. He had a doctor's appointment this morning. Would let's stand and go to the Lord in prayer and do the pledge. Commissioner Ward, would you lead us in prayer?
Sure. Lord, we come to you today as we conduct our county's business. We pray that you will guide us in making the right decisions for our county and for each of our districts. We pray in your holy name. Thank you. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, next on our agenda will be approval of minutes from the which meeting?
April 6th?
Yeah, April 6th meeting.
So moved. Second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Parrish, second by Commissioner Bolt. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That's 4-0, Jessica. Next will be payment of county bills.
So moved.
We have a motion by Commissioner Ward,
Second.
second by Commissioner Bolt. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That passes 4-0. Next would be Warden Robert O'Connor from Franklin County Correctional Institution. Please come forward, sir. State your name for the record.
My name is Robert Connor. I'm warden at Franklin Correctional Institution. What I'm here to talk to you guys about is you guys know that we have pulled our DC supervised work squads back behind the fences. We've done it for staffing issues. The way it affected Franklin County is I pulled 2 staff members back in. We have several vacant and have been vacant for some time, but the recent result is I've had to pull 2 back in behind my fences. Our DC supervised squads remain to come out. I mean, they're still coming out every day. Not at the level that I'd like. I really don't have, with our inmate count throughout the state, I'm down to 70 inmates that can come outside my gate. Some of them I have to keep on grounds to keep the grounds up. Then the others come out in the community. But it's nowhere near what should be coming out in the community. Another thing I'm here to ask you guys to do. Right now, the Senate proposal for our budget originally started out, there was talk of closing 4 prisons. Since that talk, it has been amended to 1 prison in the state of Florida and reducing positions by 1,500. We can't do that. Right now, we're sitting at about 79,000 inmates behind our fences. Courts are not in session. Once courts crank back up, we're going to get flooded again. Our biggest issue is staffing. Over the past, I've been doing this since 1988. Over the last 15, 20 years, the legislature has cut positions. We went 12 years without a pay raise. So our correctional officers are making nowhere near what your bigger counties are, what the feds are. Within the last 3 weeks, I've lost 3 people to Leon County. I've got 3 more fixing to go to the feds. We've got to get our pay up comparable to our, I don't want to say competitors, but our other correctional staff throughout the state. The House budget does not mention any closures. They understand, I think, that we just can't afford to close prisons. There's been a big debate on the number of beds we have vacant, but beds really can't be counted as beds. You know, we have specialty beds out there, we have confinement beds, we have close management beds, we have disciplinary beds, we have mental health beds. So there's a whole variety of beds out there that you just can't group the beds as beds. What we need is our public support and y'all's support in contacting these legislators and let them know that what the department does for especially our rural counties. Do you guys have any questions? I've got some documents that I'm gonna pass out to you guys if you would read.
Okay. Any of y'all have any questions for,
First is
Warden
Secretary's
Connor.
message. The rest of them is what Mr. Dixon put out, which is our Deputy
Okay.
Secretary. He put it out last week.
okay,
From what we see, Wilton Simpson, the Senate President, he's the biggest supporter of this prison closure. So I would encourage
Thank
each
you,
of you
sir.
to contact him either
Thank
by
you,
email or
Commissioner.
by phone. I will let you know, Senator Owsley and Representative Schoaf, they are on our side.
Yes.
They do support us.
yes.
This was going to ask if you were in contact with them. I've made a phone call to them. I'm sure the other commissioners have as well,
Right.
explaining the importance of Franklin County Correctional Institution. So obviously, we appreciate your efforts in trying to do what you can do to help us out too.
And I talked to the mayor about 3 weeks ago. One of the issues I have drawn staff to Franklin County is affordable housing. She showed me I can't remember the name of the Bayou, that new housing area that's going in,
Yep.
39 units, and then proposed another 30 units in the city of Carabel, back behind the school.
Yeah,
That is going to help tremendously.
good.
If we can keep pushing that, and I'm not sure how the school district is affected by this affordable housing, but a lot of my staff come out of Tallahassee and come out of Crawfordville. So if we can draw them to the local area, that's just going to benefit everybody. So,
Yep, that's an issue, Warden, that we do struggle with here in Franklin County. I mean, any newer homes being built are going between 280 to 300,000.
right.
No, I mean, yeah, it's a good purchase as an investment, but that's not anywhere close to what people are talking about when they mention affordable housing. You know, so
Right.
yeah, that's a big issue.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah, go ahead.
is your funding coming from state?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so to raise the salaries for your people, it is a state-driven emphasis, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And our job is to advocate for that.
Right.
Okay. Well, I did call Representative Schoaf's office and spoke with his staff about the need to keep this facility right where it is.
Right.
Talked about it being practically brand new,
It is.
well
It's in real
kept
good
up,
shape.
and you know, it's all small increments at one time. The affordable housing is certainly a big issue, but you know, we've got some mechanisms here with PUDs and stuff like that that we're approving, that we're asking for certain amounts of money to be that go to the sale, from the sale of some of those properties to go to affordable housing, which I thought was brilliant when you came up with that idea. And that's a special thing too, so we're trying.
Well, I appreciate everything y'all can do.
Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, as it relates to affordable housing, the legislature seems to want to keep sweeping that trust fund.
Yep.
Instead
is
of
that-
investing that money into affordable housing throughout the state and in different communities, it just sits there and
Know
year after
that.
year, they come in and sweep the trust fund, taking millions of dollars out of that trust fund that was set aside for affordable housing. So that needs to be reversed also, and I'm not sure that they fully understand the ramifications of sweeping that trust fund.
I mean, make a lot of noise.
Yes, and I think we have written a letter in
Yes,
support
we
of
have.
not closing our prison here in Franklin
Yes.
County. But maybe we need to readdress it to the Senate President and the House Speaker.
Yeah.
They should be voting on this, from what I understand, by the 27th. So within the next week, they'll be voting on our budget.
Okay.
They're actually down, last I read, they were down 14 days to the end of the session.
Yes.
So the session is not going to last very much longer,
sir.
so.
Yeah.
I'd like to make a motion that we write a letter to the Senate President and the House Speaker to re-emphasize the importance of Franklin Correctional Institution to our county.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Parrish,
Second.
a second by Commissioner Bolt, and we are readdressing this issue, closing any work camp or prison in Franklin County, and that we're opposed to that with this letter, correct?
Correct.
All right. Any more discussion before we vote? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That passes 4-0, Jessica.
I appreciate everything you guys do for
Thank
the
you,
citizens
sir.
of Franklin
Appreciate
County.
you coming.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if you don't mind,
Yes.
before the warden walks away, do you want me to ask Fonda and/or Howard if they have any questions that they would send forward to you that you may want to ask the warden, or are they,
Yeah, I think
are
that'd be
they good
appropriate.
as it
because-
relates to inmate,
Right.
in case they have any questions? Because they actually work with the inmates every
Right,
day and they know
right. I think
what
that'd
they
be
need. So, Fonda and Howard, if you have any questions, you want to unmute and ask the chairman to then forward to the
Yes, sir. How you doing?
Doing good?
Good.
Yeah, I was just wondering about the inmates. Which, we started working inmates back when the prison first opened in Appalachia in the early '90s. But is there any way, hopefully, that we could get a few more inmates coming out? I know some of our crew get one inmate. Some of them get two inmates. But we used to get 4. So, but I'm thankful for what we get. So,
Like I was saying earlier, the court system is not running now, so most of the transfers we got coming in, they're coming in as disciplinary problems, they're coming in as protection problems, and they're not eligible to go out the gate. Once these courts start running, we should start seeing more of these minimum custody inmates. One of the things that Florida, or the department has done is your short sentence inmates. They're coming in with a year and a day or less than a year and a day. We are not farming them out to facilities anymore, because you're taking a impressionable individual and putting them in a tank of sharks. It's a good representative. So they're keeping them close to reception centers and hopefully getting them involved in programs. Hopefully they won't recidivate. As we get more of these inmates back behind our fences, it's going to make more inmates eligible to come back. So until the court system cranks back up, there's not going to be a whole lot of movement. And this is a statewide issue, it's just not Franklin County.
okay, thank you. That's all I had.
I don't have anything for the water.
Thank you, Fonda.
While you're there, Fonda, I want to thank you publicly for your assistance and helping assist with getting the warden here this morning. Fonda was a great help, commissioners, with that. So, thank you both.
Thank you.
Come back and see us again. Okay.
Thank you, Warden. We appreciate you being here today.
Thank you.
All right, next is public comment, sir.
Okay, and in front of you, I think you have Mr. Berry.
Yep, that's right.
Mr. Berry, if you, I don't know which one, you have two, I don't know which one, so I'm gonna allow both to talk, and I might have to mute one if there's a feedback, Mr. Berry. So let's see which one. If you could, only unmute one of your connections, and you could address the Board of County Commissioners. Good morning, Mr. Berry, you there? All you need to do is unmute, sir. Mr. Berry, can you unmute one of your connections? I think that's what happened the last time. He had some technical difficulties on his end unmuting. And it seems like he still does. Mr. Berry, are you able to unmute any of your connections?
What is it, signed on twice or something?
Yes, he signed on twice. So it could be, well, like, it looks like two smart devices, none of them are phone calls, so. Mr. Berry, there's a little microphone somewhere in one of your smart devices. If you tap on that, it removes that little X and you can unmute and talk.
Michael,
Yes, ma'am?
can you hear me? Okay, so he just called me and I told him to try to dial in. And so I think he may be trying to dial in as well. I don't know if you want to come back to him.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, he's trying to dial in because he can't get one of the smart devices to unmute, so.
Okay.
Do you want to defer public comments until, he's the only one, sir. and
Yeah, let's go ahead and go to Department Director's reports, and we'll come back to public comments when it looks like you see another one with his name on it.
Okay,
You know what I'm saying?
I'll let you know as soon as we get one.
Okay, so up next is Superintendent of Public Works, Mr. Howard Neighbors. Good morning, Howard.
Good morning, Commissioner. Y'all hear me?
Yes, sir.
I hope all y'all doing well. we just been dealing with a lot of rain, throughout probably the past month. Which all the water and stuff draining pretty good. We've had a few sections of places where we had to clean ditches and, clean covers and where people still pile stuff in the ditches, but other than that, we're faring good with the rain.
Okay.
And the road grading, on the roads and stuff, we get complaints when you get a lot of rain, of course, but there's nothing you can do when your roads and stuff real wet for grading. And some people throughout the county think some of your roads should be graded twice a week, and it don't work that way. We grade the road, we start from one end of the county, same way with the grass cutting, and then go through with the road and stuff.
Okay. Anyone have any questions for Mr. Howard while he's here?
Mr. Chairman, I've got something. It's not
Yes.
necessarily a question, but
Okay.
I would like to, I get calls about Highway 65 a lot. It is not a county-owned road, nor is Brickyard or any of the roads up there. I did a conference with a class not too long ago, and I asked the question, how common is it for county to take on state roads to help keep up and maintain? And the answer I got was very rare. It's very uncommon. So I don't know how we can do this. I certainly don't want the residents to, if to say we get the state to take over and start maintaining these roads again, I don't want the residents to not get adequate road grading and things of maintaining their roads when the state does it maybe a lot less than what Mr. Neighbors and his crew does. But I don't know if that's something maybe we could look into in the future, especially since that, as Warden Connor stated, we're going to have less and less inmate crews helping. We've got a 70-mile wide county. I have a feeling that when it comes to county roads versus state roads, then essentially the county roads are going to supersede that, as they should with our county road crew. But my concern is with the less help that we're going to be getting, I feel like the state needs to maybe step up and do their part in helping maintain the roads that they actually own and have. So I don't know if I maybe can ask Ms. Griffith if the state gets money for these particular roads, or I don't know. I mean, like I said, I just feel like that it's something that we may need to look into in the future if Mr. Neighbors and his crew has a hard time trying to maintain what we have already, especially with the less prisoners and things to help.
The roads you're mentioning, like Brickyard, are those part of the state forest system?
I think so. So I don't know if I was told. I don't know if. Go ahead, Mr.
Federal roads.
So
Okay.
it's not
Roads is federal. Yeah.
forestry. It's FDOT that maintains.
Yeah. Federal National Park. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And same thing with Highway 65. I have people that call that are on, and they don't realize that it's a state highway. But Mr. Neighbors and his crew, they still try to help out as best they can, but it's really not their responsibility. And I just think that, like I said, with the less inmates that they're going to have helping out, it's just going to probably pose even more of an issue for them to get state roads done versus county.
Well, with Highway 65, is it more about the grass cutting or what?
Ditches, grass cutting, driveway, like the right-of-way, needing maybe some fill or some lime rock.
Michael, is that something we could talk to Ferrovial about?
Well, I don't know, that's,
Because it's a state road.
well, he said it's federal.
No, I'm talking about Highway 65.
Oh,
Sorry.
65, yeah, I can talk, I'm sorry, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing, I think it's a couple of different, in other words, we have to talk to more than one different entity to try to.
Right.
but
I don't
yeah.
mind calling and talking to people if I need to, but I think something needs to be done about it.
If I may speak, also on the grass cutting, our inmate crews are short. I'm having to put 3 crews together that I get from over there, excuse me, to make a crew. I know we've always done 98 Appalachia, East Point, Island Drive, Franklin Boulevard, and Lanark. We've cut the roads into ditches, so, and also trying to keep up with our county roads. It's going to be hard.
Okay, so Commissioner Ward, what you do, just email me a list of roads, and then I'll forward that to Ferrovial, and then we'll have a discussion with them, and they'll give me some clear direction, and I'll get back to you
Okay,
about that.
thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Commissioner Ward, you need only think about the road in my district there, that County Road 370, which is better known as Alligator Drive, and the washed-out road, which is 1,250 linear feet. Over the last 30 years, this county has put in over $3 million of a road that was given to us by the state. And I think we are excellent stewards of how we take care of things. But, you know, it was breaking our back financially. We went about a year and a half ago, didn't we, up to Tallahassee to ask if they would consider taking the road, if the state would consider taking that road back. And they said no. We even asked if maybe we could trade them a road, you know, and we'll take one of theirs. They said no. And I know facetiously how that seems, but it emphasizes how important
Yes.
it is, and we take good care of what's given to us, even under impairment. So I think you've got a good point there.
Thank you.
If I can do anything to help you, let me know.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Howard.
Yes, ma'am.
Anyone else have a concern or question for Mr. Neighbors? Howard, thank you for your time, sir, and thank you for everything y'all do.
Yeah.
Michael, has Mr. Berry popped up again yet?
Not yet, and I'm
Okay.
kind of waiting for Courtney to see if she
Okay.
can help him on her end to
All right.
get, and I'll let you know, sir.
Okay.
Oh,
Up
wait a
next-
minute, wait, there you go.
Is it there?
Hand is raised and everything.
All right.
Let's see if we can get this all worked out.
Go ahead.
Allow talk, Mr. Berry. All right, Mr. Berry, you still need to unmute, though. I saw where you raised your hand, and I have you ready to speak. If you could just, there you go. He's unmuted. Good morning, Mr. Berry. How you doing, sir? Mr. Berry, good morning. You're unmuted. Oh, he muted himself again. Yeah, I'm sorry, sir. I just, Mr. Berry, you're good to go. You were unmuted there for a second.
Okay, we'll come back to it.
Yep, all right, sir.
Up next, Solid Waste Director, Mr. Fonda Davis. Morning, Fonda.
Good morning, Commissioner. Hope well with you all. No action item this morning for my report, but just a few things I want to give you all just for your information. The basketball goals have been installed on St. George Island and at Roman Park. The day of ball was a great success in spite of all the rain, bad weather that day. Just move on down to animal control. I want to thank Mr. Schuler and the PO board as a whole for assisting animal control and making things run as smooth as possible. Again, thank you all. That's all I have right now for your board.
Okay. Anyone have anything for Mr. Davis? Fonda, thank you for everything you've done, not just for District 1, but for all the districts in this county. You and your staff, everything y'all take care of every day. I did notice a lot less debris on the roadsides, and that's a good thing. You guys are actively at work, and I really appreciate it, and I know our residents do too.
Yes, thank you.
All right, thank you, Fonda.
Okay.
All right. Up next, Ms. Pam Burnell, Emergency Management Director.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
I have one action item, is the approval of the contractor for the HLMP, which was Florida Retrofit. I think in our board report, we submitted the actual selection of the bid scoring for y'all. As far as a contract that is on that, I will not have a contract today, but I would like to ask the board to give permission to the chairman to sign the HLMP contract as soon as we get the scope of work from the state. They have not approved which houses that we are supposed to retrofit at this time. They're working on it, but they're moving very slow. And as soon as we get a scope of work from the state, we can write our contract and then let Attorney Schuler review it. And if we can get the board to approve him going ahead and signing it, then we will ratify it in the next board meeting. We need to get to moving on these houses. We've got till June 30th to finish them.
Okay. Pleasure of the board.
So move.
I have a motion by Commissioner Ward,
Second.
second by Commissioner Parrish, to award this to Florida Retrofit and to agree to have it signed after Attorney Schuler reviews it. Any more discussion before we vote?
One question.
Yes.
Isn't Florida Retrofit was the last one to actually do this contract for us also?
He has actually been our contractor for the last 4 years.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That passes unanimous, Jessica. Go ahead, Ms. Pam.
That's all that I have on mine.
Okay,
I have a couple things.
go ahead.
While Pam is here. Let's do the easy one first. Page 8 of number 6 of my report. Ms. Pam Brunel, your Emergency Management Director, requested that Chairman Jones sign a federally funded sub-award and grant agreement, which is number Z2607 for Hurricane Sally. Ms. Brunel stated that she was facing a deadline and needed the signed document sent to FDEM, Florida Division of Emergency Management, last week. In addition, Mrs. Erin Griffith completed the associated FDEM risk assessment questionnaire. Board action to ratify the chairman's signature on the Hurricane Sally federal funded sub-award and grant agreement.
So moved.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Parrish, second by Commissioner Ward. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That's unanimous.
Okay, nothing else to add on that, right, Pam? We're good?
No, we're good with that.
All right. Commissioners, flip back to page 7 to the very bottom, item 4. You're like Mother Goose here telling a story. A couple years ago, the board requested, as a legislative appropriation, funds to design and construct a new emergency operations center. The county received funds from the state to design and engineer a new EOC. After much discussion, the board agreed to a location on the airport for a new EOC. However, that location was considered airport, and I use air quotes, property based on a 1947 lease and recorded deed. In order not to pay the airport fair market value to use that property, and that's right, the county paying the airport for a lease, FAA would have to exclude the property from the 1947 lease and recorded deed. AFCON tried, but was unsuccessful on getting FAA to exclude this property. So, in an attempt to avoid that issue, Mr. Clay Kennedy of Dewberry, Mr. John Collins and Ms. Mary Shortstrom of AFCON and county staff started a search for a parcel around the airport that would be big enough for the new EOC, but not part of this famous 1947 lease and recorded deed. After many meetings and emails, and I apologize, I don't have the lot up there, I'm going to put it up in a second. The lot indicated by the green shade on the attached map is recommended. This lot is located on the northeast corner of Brownsville and Airport Road, and a 3-acre section will be used to allow enough room for the EOC building, parking, stormwater, and expansion. Now, this lot is not without its own challenges, as it was mistakenly included and recorded on the deed as part of a 1942 lease. But there is a prior deed that showed it was never part of the 1942 lease. AFCON is working with FAA and FDOT to remove this lot from the recorded deed. And even though both agencies agree that it was a mistake to include that lot, there is a process that will take a few months to correct the error. Mr. Kennedy, Mrs. Griffith, and I met with Attorney Schuler and explained the situation to him for his counsel and guidance on moving forward with this lot for the new EOC. Attorney Schuler agrees that we should proceed with this lot and the design of the new EOC, or the design new EOC on that lot, but wanted the board to be aware that if we have to move the EOC from this location for any reason, there will be added expense for changes and re-engineering of the EOC at a new location. So, is the board ready to move forward with designing the new EOC at this location with all the information that has been presented here today? And I am going to unmute Mr. Kennedy in case you have any questions. I know I discussed this with Pam yesterday, and her concern was stormwater, but I'm sure, I talked to Mr. Kennedy and Clay, and I'm sure they will design a stormwater pond and drainage system to deal with that.
That's
issue.
correct.
Oh, and he's there. There's Clay. So, in case
Michael.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, before they vote on this, the county needs to understand that Clay has to give the exact location to the state. And then the state will decide whether they're going to approve that site or not.
So, I hate to be away from the microphone. Let me just ask a question. What would cause the state to say no?
Well, you've moved me closer to the water, and is the airport going to agree to let us go up on stilts? Because that's what it's going to require to get me out of a Cat 5 surge zone.
Well, I guess we'll have to find out. First, I'm not designing or engineering, so that question I'll leave to Clay, but that's questions I guess we'll have to ask and get answered. So what is the process to find out if the state will let us build there? What do we need to do?
He's got to give them the lat long, and he's got to provide trying to think of the word here.
Elevation.
Elevation.
Elevation?
Mhm. Elevation and the Latin longs of exactly where it's going.
I have a question, Ms. Pam.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's not just directed to you, it's all of us. This parcel of property is also at the end of a couple of our runways, isn't it? Runway approaches?
It's outside the runway protected zone. We
Is
checked.
it? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
That's, because then we would have moved
That's all
on.
good.
Yeah.
Well, when we start talking about elevation, that's the only reason.
I know. Yeah, I'm shocked about the elevation part because this is so even though it's in an X flood zone, you're saying you still have to go up on stilts anyway. That's a requirement of the state.
That's going to be required by the state. They're about surge zones, making sure that that facility will survive.
Yes.
The meeting that Mr. Morone was referencing that I attended, I had asked Clay, Mr. Kennedy, that the elevation from the original site to the relocated site was the same. And my understanding is it's the same elevation at both sites.
Yeah,
So you're going up on stilts apparently wherever you're located.
wherever you're at.
Wherever you're going, I mean, when we were talking about up 65, the state told me then that that was in a Cat 5 surge zone, and we would have to either put it on a berm or on stilts.
I think, I could be wrong, Ms. Pam, but I think the state would be hard pressed to find a piece of property in Franklin County that's not in the Cat 5 zone.
That's
To
exactly.
be honest with you, we're a low-lying coastal county.
So wherever you put it, it's going to have to be, on stilts.
Okay. Well,
So, I'm sorry.
you're good. No, that's fine. That's all I had.
I was going to say, so I guess my question now is, before the board approves this, I guess now we allow Pam to get that information from Clay and we send that to the state? And I come back to the board and say, okay, the state says yes, do we proceed? Is that what I'm hearing?
That's how it's going to have to go, yeah. Because you don't want to design it for that spot. And then we send all the paperwork in and the state go, no, that's not a suitable spot. We're not going to agree to put an EOC there with any funding that is ever going to come from the state or the federal government.
So what is our timeline for this design? Because didn't we receive appropriation from the state for this design of this EOC?
I'm thinking it's 2022, but I don't have the contract directly in front of me.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
You're saying that the property that we're proposing now to rebuild our EOC is owned by the FAA? Is that my understanding?
Yes,
And
the first piece.
The
we were
first
talking about.
piece,
first,
yes,
the original discussion owned by the FAA.
Yes.
And so we would have to buy that from the FAA?
Lease,
No.
Lease it.
lease it.
Yeah.
And then so now we have money spending, leasing. Why wouldn't the FAA just give it to us with the proper procedures?
I guess we tried that and they told us no.
They said no?
Right, that it could be leased, but it could not be just taken by the county.
Really?
Yep.
Yes, because it was part, I'm sorry, you want to go ahead? Clay, you?
Yeah, I mean, and the attorney can correct me if I'm wrong, the FAA does not own the property. They just have stipulations of how that property can be used. I think it's still county property,
Oh,
but they have stipulations on if you're going to use that land, then you owe the airport, quote unquote, airport fair market value for the use of that land.
but we see that the use of this land is so complementary for everything an airport can represent to people. Here's an EOC building right on the airport.
Correct. We're not saying that the FAA would deny you any
Yeah.
use of that land.
Yeah.
It's all a matter of they're gonna, according to the folks at AVCON, they're gonna be sticklers that you pay the airport fair market value. So the only thing that we were trying to do was find a piece that did not,
Yeah.
a piece of county-owned property that did not fit under that 1947 lease, exchange
Doesn't seem-
of whatever.
I guess I'm just confused about why we would pay the FAA if we really follow complementary guidelines to build something that improves. It's an asset on that property for the whole airport and county. Why would we pay money to do that?
So you're not paying the FAA, and I'm sorry if I gave you that impression.
No?
But-
What are we doing?
Yeah, Attorney Schuler is turning colors, but because there's a good reason for why he's doing that this time, I'll
Okay.
tell you. So you're paying the airport, so there would have to be a lease between the county and the airport. Even though the airport property is a county property.
It is?
The FAA kind of sees it as a different
A different-
different department, if I could use that term. So what the FAA is saying, and this is where Attorney Schuler is going to jump in here.
Yeah.
So, but long before I was born,
Yeah.
there was a lease between the county and the federal government for that property that's now the airport. When the lease was terminated because the war ended or the time ran out, apparently the lease terminated, but the federal government or the FAA kind of put restrictions on the county's property that the county had leased to them without restrictions. So now they're trying to say we're bound by these restrictions that they put on it for leasing them the property. We were just trying to find the shortest way
Sure.
to get an EOC built as close to the airport as possible, I could tell you Attorney Schuler does not agree with the federal government on this one. He can express himself at some point, which I'm sure he will. But that's what's going on. So basically, you're paying money to yourself.
Yeah.
What I don't want to get into, Commissioners, if we have to, we have to. But if we do that, then every time Aaron and myself do anything for the airport, then we then have to start charging the airport for administrative time. Do we really want to get into that? I mean, that's not the path we really want to follow.
Yep.
You see? But I don't know. Do we end up there? You never know, because let me ask a question to Pam. Pam, so if we build on the original spot that we're looking at right there in the airport, a stone throw from the FBO, would you have to go up on stilts there?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, then
Yes.
it is what it is wherever you go.
Yes.
All right, cool.
Yes.
And just so you know, I brought it up on the map, so let me see how quickly. Okay, so
right.
if you can follow the mouse, does it show my mouse? It sure doesn't. Oh, because I'm using the wrong mouse. Okay, so right here is Brownsville Road. Then you make that turn like you're going to go to Pam, and that's the property right there that Clay's talking about. So the EOC would be there. That's the parking, and off here to the right would be the stormwater pond that Clay would, in his wisdom, would direct all stormwater to from that property.
Well, how
So
about-
does everybody know where we are?
Yes.
This is the, come on, Slowpoke. This is the, I apologize here. Right off here to the corner, this is the roundabout. If you could see my
Yeah, I
mouse,
see the
that is
roundabout
so
there.
slow right there. Yeah, that's the
Yeah.
roundabout right there, Commissioners, that you go right there.
Yeah.
If the mouse would ever get there. Brownsville Road, you make a turn, and then you go up, make the other turn, and you go to Pam, and, you know, airport, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay, so we got good roads to get to this new proposed
yeah.
site and all that.
Oh, yeah. So, Clay, I know, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman.
So do we do this concurrent? Do we go ahead and approve him to start designing it and just know it's contingent on the state approving it, or what do we do? I don't,
Chairman.
here's the thing I don't want to speak to. I don't know Clay's company's workload, but we don't need to assume that they can just do it whenever we say, let's do
I
it.
hear you, sir.
That's what I'm worried about. Go ahead, sir.
Mr. Chairman, from the conference that Mr. Morone and Mr. Kennedy and myself had with Ms. Griffith, I understood that there was that time was a factor, that Mr. Kennedy would need to weigh in as to whether or not we have some time to wait for the state to weigh in or not. But I had understood that we need to go ahead and move forward because deadlines are approaching fast.
Yes.
I don't think they're a year and a half away. I think they're much
Yeah.
closer than that, but we'd have to get Mr. Kennedy to speak to that because I don't really know what the exact dates are.
Right.
That's correct. We have deliverables that have to be met with the grant. So the 30% deliverable is coming up. I've asked Tracy to extend that to the middle of May. You know, if I can get an answer from the state this week, I can still meet that deadline, I think. But if the state drags, you know, beyond that, then that's going to put me in jeopardy. But I think that we could then at that point, you know, go back and say, hey, can you give me till June to meet that deadline since you took so long approving my site? But that would be, I haven't had that conversation with the state, so I don't know. But as soon as we get off of here today, I'm going to get with Pam, figure out who that is at the state that I need to give the lat long and elevation to. And I'll get that process moving.
Clay, as long as we, and it's been discussed here this morning about elevation, as long as we meet the required elevation by the state, why else would they turn it down? Unless it's not designed to meet the elevation that they require.
Well, so, I mean, I had criteria that I thought I was supposed to design to, as far as elevation went. I did not think we had to build on stilts. So this is what I've got to get with Pam and try to figure out who she heard that from and get that confirmed. I agree with you, Commissioner, that if we're building to whatever elevation they desire, I don't think they care whether it's, I mean, in this case, we're about 1,500, 2,000 feet closer to the water, but I mean, in the big scheme of things, like Commissioner Jones said, anywhere in Franklin County, especially county-owned property, you're going to be in that Cat 5 surge zone. So we are not in a velocity zone, if I remember correctly, even though we're closer to the water. So I don't see any, and I don't want these to be my famous last words, but I don't see any pitfalls. The elevation's the elevation.
Yep.
I don't think they care whether it's 1,500 feet apart from each other, site-wise.
I'm with you guys. I consider the elevation part of the design and engineering anyway, so let's approve it and let him work that out with the state.
Yep.
My biggest thing is that I'm going to have to change up how my structural engineer that I've got on my team, I'm going to have to, because that changes going to stilts versus building a pad up 2 feet and putting a slab on it. That's different structurally. So that's on me. I've got to figure that out from a structural engineer standpoint.
Yeah, and I know we can't, Clay, I know we can't tell the state, how it needs to be done, but at the same time, I would think that putting it on stilts would be almost putting it more at risk than it would be putting it flat on the ground. I know there's
Definitely get it in
a
the
surge
higher
and all,
winds,
but,
the higher you go.
But anyway, so,
You know what, Mr. Chairman?
yes.
You had mentioned, is it going to interfere with any runway approaches? But that is, there's another factor about runway approaches, and that is instrument approaches, which are very, very specific. We want to make sure that if we do have to elevate this building, that there is not interference with a very specific instrument approach that might be helpful for some of these runways.
Right. I think that currently there is no instrument approach for 1836, and that's right where this is at. I could be wrong, but I think I remember that being said. But, but that's something we can confirm, and I know we're going through the process with the master plan update, so that is something we can address, but this board can address.
Can we, Mr. Chairman, can we perhaps, not necessarily table this, but have Clay speak with the state, make sure that we can, about the engineering aspect before we approve it? Because I'd hate to have to spend more money and come back and readdress and have to repay for the re-engineering and all.
Yeah, well, I think he was talking about, unless I'm not trying to misrepresent you, Clay, I think he was saying that he would get with Pam and try to get the state to answer before they got to that point.
Okay.
But I think it'd be better for us today to go ahead and approve this site and approve him drawing the plans, and we just know that the state has to weigh in on it. And they'd have to do it anywhere we put it.
Yeah. Commissioner Ward, yes, I would say he will consider the elevation part of the design. So if we approve it today, if there's a problem, let me put it this way, we'll be back here next week talking about it again.
Okay.
I was going to say, could we just approve it contingent upon state agreeing with the site?
Okay. I'll make a motion to approve this today contingent on Clay speaking with the state and Ms. Pam.
Okay. We have a motion by Commissioner Ward.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Parrish. Any more discussion?
Mr. Chair, you had earlier, you had a speaker card filled out by Mr. Ted Mosteller that he might want to speak on this. Ted, if you'd like to speak on this, please raise your hand. And he has.
Yeah, come on.
Oh, okay, Ted, if you unmute yourself, you should be able to address the board. Hey, Ted, if you go ahead and unmute yourself, you should be able to address the board.
Okay, how about that one now?
Yep,
Yes.
you're good. Go ahead, sir.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Good morning, all. Appreciate the opportunity to speak. I would like to ask why, I don't understand why everybody's in approval that this is in the approach to runway 36, because it is. It's within the building line of that runway. And I don't think that you'll be able to put 16-foot elevation, ground elevation there to start with, whereas the airport proper is 20 feet. Another item is, how about a communication tower? Where are you going to put it?
He's right.
Are we going to have a communication tower?
I don't know.
That's part of my design.
That's something I guess we'll have to discuss with Pam.
Yeah, we would have to have our communications, because we have all those radios and repeaters on this water tower, our old station out here.
So the tower has to necessarily be on that same property?
Our cables and everything run from those antennas that are on this platform out here up in the air into our building.
Yeah, but the building is going to move, so you got to move the cables. My point is, sometimes you can have a tower that's a distance away from the property that you're on. So again, so is it required that the tower is located on the same property that you're on? That's what I'm asking.
No,
Okay.
it would just, it will cost us money to move those cables from here, but.
And we'll move them anyway, so if move the building. But I hear you. That's a good point that we'll have to include in our discussions with AvCon and with the state, and with the cost.
Mr. Ted, go ahead. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to take your time. It's public
Yes.
comment.
I'm sorry, I'm on now? Okay.
Yep.
I would like to propose another idea, and that would be move it on the west side of Airport Road from that point. Would that work out for you?
Yeah.
That would get it out of the building line of the airport, the runway
Come on the other
1836.
side of the road.
The opposite side, the west side of the airport road.
I think that's airport properties.
yes, that's airport property according to my map.
No,
And
I
I'm
think
looking
he's
at a
talking about right
1940
here. That side, the west side of Airport Road. I'll have to ask Clay, okay, so, and Ted, I hate to keep interrupting you. Go ahead with all your thoughts, and then we'll deal with your stuff later. I'm sorry, Ted, go ahead.
That was about it, main thing.
That goes, we go.
The property on the west side of the road, south of the old National Guard building,
Right here.
was once proposed for a lab, for seafood lab. And, but that was some time, years ago when they were moved to the current EOC
Talk about down there.
location.
Okay. Is that it, Ted?
That's about it. I'll stand by for any comment if you.
All right, thank you so
anything I
much,
can
sir.
answer or talk to you about. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Yes, so, just in discussing what he's bringing up, I think we could probably put the tower on the opposite side of the street, maybe. You know what I mean?
Yes, yes, I was thinking, looking at a tower somewhere where it won't interfere with any of the runway protected zones. Yes,
Right,
sir,
but
that's why I asked.
I think the opposite side of that street is back on airport property though,
Okay,
because I think it borders, from what I remember looking on the map,
yeah,
it's, what we have right here is right on the edge.
yeah, actually, I could bring up the blue, but that'll just, yeah.
You know what I mean? So,
Michael, I sent you the property appraiser map of that. I mean, I agree, the property on the west is part of that parcel that includes the property to the south, the spoil site and all that.
Okay,
I'm currently looking for a flood zone map so that I can see. I know that the east side of the road has a bigger X zone that I can build in.
that's,
I'm unclear I can't remember what the west side does.
yeah.
Just looking at that area, it looks like there's a wetland just south of the city's building right there.
It is.
Okay, so let's do this. I'm sorry.
That's a county building, not a city building.
My apologies, that the city is leasing.
Yes. So let's do this. Let's proceed with a motion. You talked to the state about elevation, and then let's now include the tower in our consideration as, can that go across the street? Or, you know, what our choices are. And then we'll come back to the board if we need to make more changes. But I really want to get you on the road here, starting the design here, as, you know, Attorney Schuler's alluded to, the time is against us to some degree.
okay, any more discussion before we vote? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That passes unanimous, Jessica.
All right, Clay, thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to unmute. This might be Mr. Berry. It's on this is the only phone call that we have, and it popped up there for a second. So I have 570-2616. I just allowed talking, so if you would hit star, let me see here, give you the wrong information, Mr. Berry. I haven't done it myself in so long. If you hit star 6, Mr. Berry, there you go. Is this Mr. Berry?
I did, it is.
It is. Good morning, sir. Finally good to talk to you. So.
Yes, thank you. I apologize for creating such an issue, but evidently one laptop has no audio problem. It has an audio problem, so I'm in on my cell phone. I'll make it quick and sweet.
That's fine. State your name for the record, and I'll give you up to 3 minutes to address the Board of County Commissioners, sir.
Thank you. My name is John Berry. I'm living on Alligator Drive at Alligator Point, Florida. I apologize for the last time I tried to talk with y'all, but I want to address the Alligator Point Volunteer Fire Department and the so-called audit quote. I am a registered CPA in Florida, certified here, and have been since 1984. I got interested in this financial review and these records predicated upon the MSBU funding and the promises that were made to all of us residents back in 2013 when we voted for it. I have spent a number of dollars of my own to get this information because originally I was told by the acting treasurer at that time. Please do not talk to him, by the fire chief that we have out here. I had to use a Florida Open Records Public Act to get the data. I've gone through the data. I do recognize that the fire department has since we started this process back in March 30th of 2020, that they have gone out and got a CPA firm to do them not an audit, but a reconciliation of their 1099 tax form for a nonprofit organization. They reconciled the balances, and that was it. There are 3 products that the CPA firm produced. They produced an engagement letter, they produced an agreed upon procedures letter, and they produced a management letter. The engagement letter basically said, this is what we're going to do. And to do that, they have to get agreement with the agreed upon procedures via the so-called financial committee of the fire department. That fire department, those agreed upon procedures were created and agreed upon. Then the firm issues a management letter. If you have not seen the agreed upon procedures, if you've not seen the management letter, nor the engagement letter, you should request it. I requested it. I had to hire an attorney to get these documents. I have since got those documents, and I've found issues in the management letter, and I think you will too. Again, there's a number of falsehoods that's been put out here, and I'm willing to address it. As a CPA, our ethics are very high, and I have maintained that since 1984. And with that, I just wanted to ensure that you understood there has been no audit of the fire department. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Berry.
All right, Mr. Berry, thank you very much. Glad you finally got on, sir.
Now, was Ms. Pam done? I'm sorry.
Oh, you know, Commissioner, that was terrible of me. Hey, Pam, the chairman wants to make sure you're finished. I assumed you were. That's a bad thing for me to do.
Just me. We are finished. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Jen.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much.
Thank y'all.
All right, so up next is Eric Lovestrand, Extension Office Director for IFAS.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
No action items for you this morning, but I did have a brief update on the Hurricane Michael Marine Debris Grant Project that we're participating in. As part of the process for removing the vessels that were pushed up into the head of the bay and areas along the river, FWC has to actually send out formal letters to all of the owners of those. Those letters have been sent, and they're attempting to get permission or acquire title actually to those vessels so the state can then remove those. There were also 2 structures that were targets on the list that we had to work on. One of those was the remnants of the old Pelican Inn on Dog Island, and the other was this large house over towards Carabel that just collapsed right onto the shore of the shoreline right there. And both of those structures have been completely removed at this point. So we're moving forward and making progress, and I just wanted to give you that brief update. And that was all I had.
Thank you, Mr. Eric. Does anyone have a question or a thought for Mr. Eric Wazir? We appreciate the update. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you, guys.
Yes, sir. All right, next is Ms. Courtney Bankston, Board of Adjustment report.
Good morning, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, let me share my screen. All right, so first item that we have, let me see if I can get, Michael, if you can see that I renamed some of the items on there.
Fine.
For the attendees.
Okay.
Okay, so the first thing we have for Board of Adjustment is the consideration of a request for a variance to construct a single-family dwelling 12 feet into 25-foot setback off River Road 15 feet variance into the 25-foot setback off River Street, which is unconstructed, and a 15 feet variance into the 50-foot wetland setback requirement from Carabel River. Property is described as 339 River Road, Block 5, Carabel River, Subblock 1. The request is submitted by Richard A. Glover, agent for Richard L. Wood, Cheryl T. Wood, and Donna B. Boswick, applicant. And they are on the line.
Okay. And advisory board recommended approval of this?
That is correct.
Okay.
So
Anyone-
moved.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Ward to approve,
Second.
second by Commissioner Bolt.
Comment, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Just for the record, Ms. Bankston, will you confirm for the board what the square footage of the heated and cooled space is for the structure going 15 feet into the critical habitat zone?
It is 1,000 square feet minimum.
And did the Board of Adjustment not also ask, and the applicant's representative agreed that they would gutter the property to push the stormwater closer to the road and away from the water?
That's correct.
Commissioners, I would ask the motion to second be amended to reflect those two items to make sure that we're complying with the board's policies of restricting the heated and cooled space of the footprint of a building that goes into the critical habitat zone is a maximum of 1,000 square feet for the footprint, and we try and push the stormwater towards the road and further away from the water in order to protect water quality in our rivers and bays.
Okay.
I'll amend my motion.
All right, Commissioner Ward amends her motion.
I'll amend my second.
Commissioner Bolt amends his second. Any more discussion? Yes, sir. Any more discussion before we vote? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That's unanimous, Jessica. Go ahead, Courtney.
All right, second, we have the consideration of a request for a variance to construct a single-family dwelling 10 feet into the 25-foot setback into the right-of-way of Indian Harbor Drive. This property is described as 1931 Indian Harbor Road in St. George Island. The request was submitted by Garlic Environmental, agent for Walter Sears. The advisory board did recommend approval.
Okay, does anyone have any questions? Pleasure of the board.
So moved.
We have a motion by Commissioner Ward,
Second.
second by Commissioner Bolt. Any discussion?
Yes, one question on this. Want to go 10 feet into the 25-foot setback of the right-of-way? Is that because of the coastal construction line?
Yes, they're trying to stay out of that coastal construction line as much as possible.
That's the only question I have.
Okay. Any more questions or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That passes unanimously.
All right, last item for Board of Adjustment, we have the consideration of a request for a variance to construct a single-family dwelling 13.4 feet into the 25-foot setback off of Highway C30 and a 3-foot variance into both the left and right side 10-foot side setback requirement. Property is described as 1610 Highway C30 Carabel. Request was submitted by Robert Molligren and Leslie Denhard, applicants. The advisory board recommended approval of the front setback variance request contingent upon demolition of current home and structure. They also recommended denial for the side setback, so I have two different board actions for that.
Okay, does anyone have any questions? I have a question, Courtney.
Okay.
Is it, maybe I'm completely off, but is it normal for our advisory board to give us two completely different recommendations on the same?
They requested two separate things, so they requested a variance into the front setback and then a variance into the side setback requirements. So we had to separate them because the board wanted to deny the side set requirement because they didn't see it as a hardship. But the front setback they were okay with.
So go ahead, Attorney Shore.
Ms. Courtney, would you explain to the board what the purpose of the request for the side setback request, where it's not, as I recall, it's not for the footprint?
It's not for a house, it's more of a walkway, a deck walkway.
Okay.
That's correct.
They tried to keep from the original house. It was that way, but the board didn't think that was, a necessity to have a walkway because it's going to be covered. That area is going to be covered anyway, so that they let them know that they were only approving the requirement for the house and not for the walkway.
Okay, that makes a little bit more sense, because that's what I'm sitting there thinking, how can we approve one, deny the other if that's going to change the footprint of the house? So that's what I was worried about.
It's not part of the house.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was wondering that myself. With that being said, I'm going to make a motion to approve the front setback variance, but I'm going to we got to do two different motions, don't we?
Can we do two motions, or can we state it all in one motion?
I think you could do it either way. A motion to approve the recommendation for the front setback, and also a motion to approve the denial of the side setback.
Right.
In one motion.
Okay. I'm going to make a motion to approve the front setback, but I'm going to approve the motion to deny the setback request for the side.
Okay. I have a motion by Commissioner Ward.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Bolt. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That passes unanimously.
All right, now we're moving on into the planning and zoning. First thing I have on my agenda for that is the approval to appoint Tony Shiver as the District 1 board member for Planning and Zoning Board.
And Courtney, if I may, this is being done, Commissioners, because Mr. Lon Wilkins, that served for several years with me, has been diagnosed with cancer and has been having some health issues. So he's asked to step down from the Planning and Zoning Board, and Mr. Shiver is willing to serve, so that's why we're doing this today. Pleasure of the board.
So move.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Bolt.
Approve.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Ward. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That's 4-0, Jessica, unanimous. Go ahead, Courtney.
All right, first on the list, we have the critical shoreline applications. The first one is the consideration of a request to construct a single-family private dock located at 1545 Alligator Drive, Lot 3. This is in Alligator Point. The applicant has both state and federal permits. The dock will be 229 by 4 with a 6 by 20 terminal platform and a 12 by 20 proposed boat lift. The request was submitted by Robert Kirby. He's actually gotten approval for this prior, but it's been over a year, so he had to come back to get another approval, is the reason why he had to come back.
And the house is under construction?
That's correct.
Okay. All right, and P&Z board recommended approval?
They did.
Okay. Pleasure of the board.
Motion to approve.
All right, have a motion to approve by Commissioner Bolt.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Ward. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That's 4-0. Go ahead, Courtney.
All right, next is the consideration of a request to construct a roof over an existing boat lift and redesign the existing terminus located at 71 Fiesta Drive. This is also in Alligator Point. The applicant has state and federal permits. The roof will be 29 by 14, and the redesigned terminus will be 20 by 8. Request submitted by Better Built Docks, agent for Travis Fink. P&Z board recommended approval.
Courtney, I have a question on this.
Okay.
Just because I don't remember presently off the top of my head. What is the rule in the county for covered boat lifts? Because it seems like there was a restriction in some areas. Is this one of those areas?
Not that I know of.
Okay.
But I would have to double check on that one.
Yes, sir.
I haven't heard anything for Alligator Point.
Okay.
You know what?
What's up, look?
Why did we do an Alligator Point about covered sheds? Could you guys?
Mr. Morrow?
I don't know.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I don't know that it applied to boat lifts, but there
Okay.
was an action by the board several years ago to adopt by ordinance, I believe, a restriction on essentially covered
Decks, yeah.
at
Okay.
Alligator Point along the Gulf of Mexico based on
Right.
unload hazard
Yes.
and flying
Okay.
debris hazards. I don't have any recollection of a restriction
Boat
on
lift.
boat lift housing.
Maybe that's what I'm thinking of, but it brought something to my mind, so I'm just trying to clarify. Okay,
See, that's the good memory, Michael.
there you go, there you go.
One over here, I don't know much about over here.
All right, so pleasure of the board.
So approve.
All right, we have a motion to approve by Commissioner Bolt,
Second.
second by Commissioner Ward. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That's unanimous, Jessica.
All right, next we have the consideration of a request to construct an additional 280 square foot dock and a 312-foot covered boat lift to an existing dock located at 323 East Sawyer Street in East Point. The applicant has state and federal permits. Request submitted by Richard DeLarber, applicant. P&Z board recommended approval.
Okay, I'll ask the same question. Is a covered boat lift a problem on St. George Island?
No, sir.
Okay. Just want to make sure, for the record. All right, pleasure of the board.
So move.
We have a motion by Commissioner Ward,
Second.
second by Commissioner Bolt. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That passes unanimously.
Okay, next we have final plat application for Elaine Boom. This is a consideration of a request for final plat approval of 21 acres of land, line in section 25 and 35, Township 7 South, Range 5 West, Carabel, Florida. The subdivision will be named St. George Bay and will consist of 16 lots over 1 acre each. Request submitted by Elaine Boom, agent for Ed Simmons, applicant. P&Z board recommended approval contingent upon required permits for final plat.
I'll make a motion to approve per P&Z board recommendation contingent upon required permits for final plat.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Ward for approval,
Second.
second by Commissioner Parrish. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That passes unanimously.
Okay. Next, we have commercial site plan application. We have the consideration of a request for commercial site plan review of 1,500 square feet convenience store with a deli and drive-through located at 101 West Pine Avenue, Unit 1, Block 2 West, Lot 17 and 18 on St. George Island. The request was submitted by Jim Waddell, agent for Charles Robert Shiver and Donna K. Barber, applicants. P&Z board recommended approval contingent upon flood review and permits.
Okay. Courtney, I have some things I want to state about this just because I was asked. I've been asked about it and approached about it. So in this site plan, it shows the 30-foot alley that should run between First Street and Second Street, in between West Pine and West Bay Shore. But the alley was actually constructed by the county as an elbow shape years ago, but that 30-foot is still available. I was wanting to confer with Mark this morning to make sure, Mr. Currington, to make sure that that alley would be able to be used because it's in their site plan. And he said it would, but it would be upon the applicant to finish that part of the road out.
That's correct.
And I just wanted to clarify that here this morning so the board would know, because it is shown on the site plan, but it's not, there's not actually a road there presently. Pleasure of the board.
So move for approval.
All right, we have a motion to approve by Commissioner Bolt.
I'll second.
We have a second by Commissioner Ward. Any more discussion?
Mr. Chairman, if I
Yes.
could you unmute Mr. Waddell?
Sure.
I just want to make sure they're not trying to claim ownership of county property. I just want that on the record.
I don't think they're necessarily trying to claim ownership. I think they're just saying that's part of the access they're going to use to get into it.
Okay, Jim is unmuted. Good morning, Jim.
Hey, good morning. How are y'all doing this morning?
Good.
Hey, Mr. Waddell, this is Michael Schuler. Good morning. How are you, sir?
I'm fine. How about yourself?
I'm okay. I just wanted to make sure that the applicant, I understand from the discussion here this morning, and I'm just seeing this morning, that the county's alley is included within the footprint of the site plan, but I just wanted to confirm for the record, your client is not claiming any ownership of the public alley, is it?
Absolutely not. We would just like to, at their expense, improve the alley for the purpose of access to the drive-through. Yeah, but there's no claim of ownership whatsoever.
I just wanted it on the record, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Waddell.
Yes, sir.
Any more discussion before we vote? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That's 4-0, Jessica. All right, go ahead, Courtney.
Okay, next we have rezoning and land use change applications. The first one, we have the consideration of a request for a public hearing to change a triangular parcel for a rezoning change from C1 commercial fishing to C3 commercial recreation. Property is described as 336 Patton Drive, Franklin County, Florida. Request submitted by Marsha Watson, agent for MMSW Holdings, LLC applicant. P&Z Board recommended approval for public hearing.
Okay, I would like to say that, yes, this is just a request to go to a public hearing, and I know that there'll be a lot, that'll be the time to discuss it. Looking at this piece of property, I'm wondering if they can do even what the limited use they're talking about doing. The other concern that I have, and I just want to state it so the board will know ahead of time, because we're here in a public setting, is I know it's different, but it's immediately adjacent to some other RV sections that were put up. And I know it's two different owners, but I think there's still a state mandate. If you get above a certain amount of RV slots, you're going to have to provide public facilities, restrooms, and that kind of thing. So I just want to state that today so the board can be aware that that might be an issue, just so they know. And maybe that can be answered at the public hearing. But the pleasure of the board to approve to go to public hearing today.
So moved.
We have a motion by Commissioner Parrish.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Bolt. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Michael,
Yes, ma'am?
I think Marsha has her hand up.
Oh, I'm
I
sorry.
didn't know if she wanted to speak.
I apologize. I was getting ready to move on.
She
Okay.
can, but we've already voted. We've already approved it.
Okay, I'll let her know. Good morning, Ms. Marsha. You're unmuted, but the board already approved this item to go to public hearing. Is there something you wanted to add, or can I just lower your hand? She didn't unmute, so I'm going to assume that she didn't want to, sir. So,
Okay.
All right, next we have the consideration of a request for a public hearing to change a 200 by 300 foot parcel for a land use change from residential to commercial, and also a public hearing to rezone from R4 single family home industry to C4 mixed use residential. Property described as 31865 Highway, I'm sorry, it's 1865, I forgot to take that 3 off. Highway 98 West, Carabel. Request submitted by Blakey's Beach LLC. P&Z Board motioned without a recommendation to present the request for a public hearing before the Board of County Commissioners. After the meeting, the applicant sent an email requesting to revise their request for a rezoning from R4 single family home industry to C2 commercial business instead of C4.
Was there, let me ask, was there a reason
Yes.
why this was done?
It was. And Courtney, if I may, and then Courtney, jump in when I go wrong, because, you know, I watch the P&Z meetings also live. So there was some public comments about the C4 and skinny minis, and it brought more attention to it than what I think the applicant expected. So they went and looked again, and they realized they can do what they want to do under C2 and not receive any criticism for trying to go to C4. I think, honestly, the applicant didn't realize that C4 would bring a possible negative attention, and with the public hearing coming, they wanted at least the least amount of attention as possible, negative attention, I would say, about this project.
And not only that, but I think the property owner is actually only leasing the property to them for like 2 years.
Yes.
So if it gets rezoned to C4 and they only have it for 2 years, now this property is rezoned for C4, and there's no telling how it will be able to rezone back in the future.
Okay, Attorney Schuler.
Mr. Chair, let me see if I understand procedurally what happened. There was an application submitted to P&Z, there was a P&Z hearing. The outcome of the P&Z hearing was no action by the board of
No
the
recommendation.
one way or the other. Subsequent to that P&Z hearing, after that hearing concluded, there was a change in the application requesting land use change from R4 to C4 was the original application. Then after the P&Z meeting, there was a request to go from R4 to C2.
Yes.
Has that revised application been back to P&Z?
No, it has not. I didn't.
No, but it was a recommendation to the applicant by the P&Z board.
That's one of the things that some of the P&Z members did mention in the meeting. Would they
Yeah, they
consider C2 instead of
Did the board
C4?
vote on that?
No, their recommendation, they have no recommendation to the Board of County Commissioners for the public hearing.
Mr. Chairman, I'm not sure how the board feels about it. I think it needs to go, the revised application needs to go back to P&Z because we don't have an action from P&Z to this board on the revised application. That's what I'm hearing this morning.
Well,
Go ahead.
I was going to say, one of the things that the applicant was thinking about going to C2 is because he wants this application to go forward as quickly as possible. So I think his move from C4 to C2, or that request, was only thinking that it would be less of a problem, if I could say that. And so I would say this, I would think the applicant will then, if that's what he's facing, he will probably want to proceed with C4 to get it heard as quickly as possible. I know I'm making it very confusing here. I hate to do that, but,
No, it is
you
a
know.
confusing process. So let me ask this, because I don't know, none of the commissioners go to P&Z meetings, as we shouldn't. Was it the recommendation of that P&Z board for the applicant to hearing their request live? Was it their recommendation that they asked for it to change to C2 and bring it to us?
They did. One of the members, I can't remember which one, Courtney could help me out. One of the members asked the applicant, would you consider C2? And I think that was based on some of the public comment they received that night, that in C4, you could put skinny minis. And that kind of panicked everybody. So that's where that came from.
But
And
there was not a vote of the P&Z board.
They didn't vote on it either way.
They didn't vote either way. They
No.
had no recommendation.
They wanted to bring it before the Board of County Commissioners to make the final
Basically,
decision.
they said, let the county commissioners decide.
Yeah.
But basically is what they did.
Mr. Chairman, procedurally, since the applicant has decided to change the zone request, minus what was spoken about at the P&Z meeting, procedurally, does he have to go back and reapply for the C2 designation instead of the C4 designation that he originally asked for?
That's my
That's what Attorney
recommendation.
Schuler's
Yes,
saying.
ma'am.
Yeah. So, I guess
If they
it's
change
just,
the application, then I think procedurally, this board's policy is P&Z needs to consider the revised application, and then they may send it back to you with no comment and no recommendation on the C2 app, but they haven't officially received or considered an application.
Michael, the Whaleys have their raised hand, their hand raised.
They're. I'm going to allow them to talk, okay?
okay, go ahead.
Good morning. You guys are unmuted. State your name for the record and address the Board of County Commissioners, please.
Good morning. I'm Lauren Whaley, the applicant with Miss Mary Lawhon, the property owner. Our intentions of changing, like Mr. Moran said, was to quell any complaints about what we were doing. We changed that at their recommendation with the assumption that we would be able to move forward at this point. If we're not going to be able to move forward with the C2 change, we would like to move forward with the C4.
That's what I thought was going to happen.
Can I make one more statement?
Yes, sir.
With the C4 designation, if we need to sign a longer lease agreement that would to satisfy what might happen 2 years down the road, the owner of the property is here with me. She and we agree that we can do that, number one. Number two, for the concerns about the skinny homes, or I'm not even sure what those are, but in regards to that, before any of those items could be complete at some unknown hypothetical future date, wouldn't that have to come back before the board in order to do that, or the planning and zoning or the building department? And there's oversight that would prevent that if that's the concern.
Well, I think, I could be wrong, Lauren, but I think if they were trying to put more than one home there, because it is a 2-acre site, that they could put 2, but yeah, anything past that would have to come back to the commission, I think.
Right, so the concerns of the skinny homes really seem to me to be invalid.
Mr. Chairman, the private leasing arrangements between the property owner and some third party is, I mean, the county's not getting involved, has no comment on that. In terms of C4 and what their future uses are, I mean, that's also not right for consideration. I think we have before the board today is a request for a public hearing to change the land use from residential to commercial and the zoning from R4 to C4. If that application was submitted and considered by P&Z and they sent it to you with no comment, basically, then this board decides whether to set a public hearing or not.
Okay. So
that request, not the amended request that was apparently received after P&Z concluded this meeting.
Okay, so, I mean, I can't speak for all of us, but I'm satisfied with the applicant on the line. They're wanting to move forward, and they're fine with it being a request to change to C4 at this present point, if it can be voted on today. Is that what everybody's understanding?
Yes.
Okay. So it's the pleasure of the board to approve this public hearing.
Just real quick, if I could add. Mr. Whaley, you said the owner of this property is on the line with you, Ms. Lohan, I believe?
Yes, she's here with me now.
Okay, does she, say we do, this does go hypothetically to a public hearing, is she okay with the zoning, if it does go through, would she be okay with this being zone C4?
Yes.
Okay. With that, I will make a motion to put this to a public hearing.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Ward.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Bolt. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That passes unanimously.
Okay, Mr. Willie, Ms. Bankson will give you a call today, tomorrow or the day after to talk about a public hearing, okay?
So much.
Okay, yes, sir.
All right, go ahead, Courtney.
All right, last we have a special exception application. It's the consideration of a request for a special exception in the C1 Commercial Fishing District to construct a 27 by 40 water-dependent tourist commercial facility or kayak rental facility located at 444 Highway 98, 150 feet facing Highway 98, Apalachicola. Request submitted by Barbara Mathis, applicant. The P&Z board recommended approval of the special exception. After it went before P&Z, after speaking with staff recommends deferring this request until the building department and the floodplain administrator have an opportunity to discuss the building shed currently on the property with no record of a permit.
So if I may, commissioners, before you go on, so the question was not what they were asking to do, that there's a building there right now that the building department could not find any permit for, and that's your building inspector and your floodplain administrator, like it says, would want to have some discussions with the applicant, get that building straightened out, and then we could proceed with the request that's in front of the board. So that's why staff was asking for, basically for you to table it is what they're asking for until they can get that worked out.
Yeah, the building was presented on the site plan as being an existing structure, but we have no record of it being existing before the applicant did their application, returned the application, and we don't have any record of a permit on file for that existing building.
Okay, so is it the pleasure of the board to table this, approve it, or deny it?
And the applicant is on the line if you'd like to ask any questions.
Okay.
She has her hand raised as well.
Yes, I'm going to allow them to talk right now. Oh, wait a minute, promote to, Oh, okay, they have a, hold on here, I'm sorry. Where are they? There they are, okay.
Hey, hello. Thank you for having us this morning. Sorry. Can you
Hi.
hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Hi, my name is Samantha Fortunes Mathis. I am Barbara's daughter-in-law, and we are the one proposing the business here. And we apologize for the human error. Barbara bought the property in the existing trailer that's there available for purchase. But if I might say that it is portable, so it's on a 40-foot gooseneck trailer, so it can be, and we're just a little bit out of line procedurally, I guess.
Michael, can you hear her? She's breaking up.
Trying to figure it all out as far as we went to the zoning and planning meeting and got approved for the special exemption, and we're very willing to cooperate and get whatever permits.
Thank you, Matt.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I think they had a
Can you hear
bad
me?
connection, so they kind of
Yeah.
cut out a little bit.
They're a little frozen too.
Yeah. So basically, I think they were saying basically they want to
wait
straighten
until
out
you can hear me.
whatever the issues are and to proceed with their application. That's what I heard. And I'm sorry, Mr. You guys have a, I know you have an older version of Zoom also, but it kind of, you're frozen out, so we can't see a picture. We might be able to hear you, but we can't see a picture.
Yes.
Are you guys still there? Okay.
Okay, good, because I was hoping I wasn't frozen on a, yes, we're here. Can you hear us now?
Yes. It seemed to be a delay, but yes.
Should I try to call in?
You might
Should I
want
try to call in, Courtney?
Well, you might want to just turn your camera off.
Okay, we're gonna call in real quick.
Okay.
Okay.
Broadband, we have great
Okay, the
broadband.
video has
in
stopped. Can you hear me
Franklin
better
County.
now?
Yeah, I can hear. We can hear you a lot better.
Okay, sorry about that. What I was saying is that apologizing for the human error, that we got the property in the trailer and kind of jumped the gun there, but we're willing to cooperate and get whatever permits needed. And also that the building now, without the porches added, the proposed porches that are in the business plan, is on a gooseneck trailer that is portable.
Is the building supposed to stay portable, or, I mean, I know you're talking about adding porches, but are you
Yes,
keeping it?
we absolutely want it to stay portable, so that in the event that, you know, a big storm or something needs to come, something comes along, that we can move it. Granted, let's pray that there's no more big storms coming along.
Yeah, that would be a good thing. Okay, thank you. Commissioner Parrish, did you have something?
Yes, I was just gonna make a motion to follow staff's recommendation to give them time to get with the applicant. What they're wanting to do is an acceptable water-dependent tourist-related facility, but staff has questions on some issues there when it comes to floodplain administrator and building department. So I'm gonna make a motion to table until staff has time to get with the applicant and work out the details of their concerns.
And then we'll bring it back to the board,
Bring it
commissioners.
back to the board.
Yeah, as soon as we get those worked out.
Okay, so we have a motion to table.
Thank you so much.
I'll second it.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Parrish, second by Commissioner Bolt. Commissioner Ward, did you have a comment?
No, I was just going to second.
Oh.
but Thank you.
Go ahead.
Not a problem. Any more discussion before we vote?
Makes a lot of sense.
And we're voting to table this to a future meeting to readdress it.
Sure.
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That's unanimous.
And that is all I have for you today,
Yeah,
Commissioners.
and thank you, Samantha and Ms. Barbara, for being here, and all the other applicants as well that were on the line that maybe didn't even have to speak on their items because they were approved. Thank you, Courtney.
No problem.
All right, sir. Next is our RFQ bid opening.
Okay, we can, hold on. Oh, no, don't open those. Kind of, yeah, so Commissioner, so and this is per Mark, the county planner who's overseeing this grant, we have received 2 proposals for the CEI in Alligator Point multi-use project from George Foss Road to Gulf Shore Boulevard. FDOT requires that we receive at least 3 proposals to rank them. So, with that being said, he recommends that the board rejects the proposals without opening them. He re-advertises and we try it again.
Okay.
That's just FDOT rules, commissioners.
Well, we only get 2 of them.
Yes.
Yeah, so only because we only got 2, commissioner, we can't open them. So
I
because
see.
FDOT requires 3 to do a ranking. And so we got to re-advertise until we get 3, basically. Or after we do this for a while, we tell FDOT and then who knows?
So next time, can we put in a bid so we make sure we get through?
Yeah.
I'm playing. I know we can't do that.
If you think you can do some CEI service, go for it.
But
Well, at
educate me,
least we
isn't-
have 3. I can get turned down like anybody else. No, I'm playing.
Isn't our Clay Kennedy capable of doing what we're trying to bid for?
Yeah, but I think-
It's an FDOT rule, though. They wanted to have 3.
Isn't Clay as part of the project already, so he can't be, he can't be the inspector? Yeah, you can't do both.
All right.
You know, silly rules.
Continuity of care, though.
So we're looking for a motion to reject these bids without opening them and re-advertise.
Yes.
Okay. Pleasure of the board.
So move.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Bolt,
Second.
second by Commissioner Ward.
Just a comment.
Yes, sir.
I know this is sort of sociology, but we ought to thank these guys for bidding and ask
Oh,
them
yes.
to do it again.
Oh, yes.
I'll let Mark know. He can send him an email and explain
Okay,
to him what happened.
that'd be
Thank
great.
them, sir. I sure will.
Thank you.
Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That passes unanimous. We're
So you
going
want to take a short break and then we?
Yeah, let's
Aaron
do
and
that.
I?
Yes.
Okay.
We're going to recess for 5 minutes.
It's time for the Ghost Walk presented by the Apalachicola Area Historical Society. Come meet Apalachicola citizens from the other side and hear lore and stories from the past. This one-night-only event is being held Saturday, May 1st from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. at the Chestnut Street Cemetery in Apalachicola. Admission is $5 at the gate. For more information, visit apalachicolahistoricalsociety.org. This event is funded in part by the Franklin County TDC.
Another question came in. If I have been exposed, should I come to the hospital? Will I have to wait in the lobby with others who might be infected?
That is such a key question, and there's been some misunderstanding, not just in our community, but in communities all around the nation about that. So how are we handling that? If you think you've been exposed, you definitely want to talk to your doctor. If your doctor is not available, call us. At that point, should you come in? Right now, the answer is no. If you think you've been exposed, but you are not having symptoms, right now, we're not going to test you. So coming here would only put yourself at risk for more exposure to someone else here or for people here being exposed to you. Now, if you do come in, if you think you're developing some symptoms, will we tell you to wait in the lobby around other folks? We want you to come in. We want you to check in, put a mask on, and at that point, depending if there are other people in the lobby, you may be asked to wait back outside in your car. Let me underline, we are not sending you home. We're just going to have you wait in your car until the nurse can come out and get you for your turn to be seen. Ordinarily, being exposed, if you think someone in your home has this, but you're asymptomatic, that person who is having symptoms should come in. I think one of the other questions we talked about, if someone in my home is positive, should I get tested? And again, the answer is no. If you're not showing symptoms, at this point, there's no point in it, because say you are tested, say you have a family member in your home, known positive, you're tested, and you're negative. what have we proven? You're just negative that day. If you're still living in the home with that person, you might be positive tomorrow. So better to wait until we have the more rapid blood test to give a better, more precise response for everybody in the home.
Come inside and check us out. We have something for everyone. Hello, welcome to Apalachicola Chocolate and Coffee Company. From our handmade chocolates, fudges, delicious old-fashioned caramel, pies, cookies, including the largest Greek wedding and macarons you've ever seen. We also make the Italian-style ice cream called gelato, which is adult tested and kid approved. We have a full menu coffee bar, from lattes and cappuccinos to some of our signature drinks, such as our affogatos and black bottom coffees. And don't forget about the famous crafted coffee blend. We also roast our coffee beans on site, so it's super fresh. Don't like coffee? We also have teas and lemonade. If you're hungry, we serve breakfast sandwiches on our homemade bread, or we have New York water bagels. Or try the biscuits and gravy that are to die for. We also have lunch sandwiches and soups. We do carry some gluten-free and vegan options as well. Hear what some locals have to say.
I love the biscuits and gravy.
You know something? The coffee here is great.
I love the ice cream of the chocolate company.
So come check us out and stay a while. In here, it's just like Cheers, where everybody knows your name. Oh, hey, Dan.
Can't be near the beautiful beaches of Franklin County? Tune in to Forgotten Coast TV, Franklin County's local cable channel. Watch shows and videos about our beautiful area, including our beaches, museums, shops, and more. Watch it wherever you are on Roku and Amazon TV. Also, make sure you like us on Facebook and subscribe on YouTube. Forgotten Coast TV is Beachin' TV. Fisherman's Choice Bait and Tackle has all you need for your day of fishing. They have fresh and saltwater bait, an unmatched selection of mirror lures, and a wide selection of Berkley Gulp, plus fresh and live bait and all the rigs and tackle you need for a great day of fishing, including brands like Penn and Shimano. They are also the only bait and tackle shop in Franklin County where you can get a fishing license. And don't miss their wide selection of marine supplies, coolers, and more. Fisherman's Choice is located at 330 Highway 98 in East Point.
Franklin County Board of County Commissioners is now back in session. Next up is Fiscal Manager Grants Coordinator, Ms. Erin Griffin, with her report.
And fortunately, with the Buddy Ward Artificial Reef Project, FWC does not have the same minimum number of proposers requirement.
There you go.
Because Walter Marine of Orange Beach, Alabama was the top ranked and only proposer for the Buddy Ward Artificial Reef Project. The ranking committee recommends the board enter into a contract with Walter Marine, as Walter Marine meets all contractor requirements of the RFP. They've also done a lot of work up here in our region. The grant award requires the deployment of at least 25 concrete prefabricated reef modules to construct 3 reef complexes in the Buddy Ward permit site located approximately 7.5 nautical miles off Bob Sykes Cut. Walter Marine's proposal will deploy 30 reef modules for the contract price of $70,000. The deployment is to occur prior to August 1st, 2021, and upon deployment, the GPS coordinates will be posted online via the Apalachicola Artificial Reef Association's website, www.apalachicola.reef.org. Board action to authorize the chairman's signature on the attached contract with Walter Marine for the Buddy Ward Artificial Reef Project.
So moved.
We have
Second.
a motion by Commissioner Parrish, second by Commissioner Bolt. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That's unanimous, Jessica. Go ahead, Erin.
Okay, the second part of this is a budget resolution for Buddy Ward Artificial Reef Project pursuant to Florida Statute 129.06. The attached budget resolution is needed to incorporate the unanticipated revenues from the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission's $60,000 state grant and the $10,000 contribution from the Apalachicola Artificial Reef Association into the 2020-2021 county budget. The corresponding $70,000 expenditure line item will be 001.20.572.3401, titled Other Contract Services Buddy Ward Reef Project. Board action to adopt the attached resolution to incorporate the unanticipated grant revenues into the county budget to fund the project.
So moved.
We have a motion by Commissioner Parrish,
Second.
second by Commissioner Bolt. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That passes 4-0.
Okay, item number 3 is the CARES Act update with state shared gas tax revenues. The Florida Department of Revenue distributes state shared revenue proceeds several months after the collection period. The final state shared gas tax revenues were not received until December for the prior fiscal year. As the COVID pandemic shifted into crisis mode in late March of 2020, the state shared gas tax revenue estimates as used in the budget process for 1920 as released by the state of Florida were short by $162,029.33. As the CARES funds can be used to offset losses in revenue, it is requested that the board authorize booking $162,029.33 of CARES funds in the Road and Bridge Fund to stabilize the road department budget, which is funded primarily by gas taxes. Should the BOCC approve, this will leave approximately $66,763.78 remaining from the first CARES allocation. The CARES cost tracking workbook with the proposed entry is attached, and the impacted shared revenues are listed in the attached table.
Commissioners, I could not get that table attached, so it's on the share screen if you can see it up there now in case we need to refer.
Okay, and board action to authorize booking CARES revenue in the Road and Bridge Fund to offset losses in state shared gas tax revenue proceeds.
So move.
We have a motion by Commissioner Bolt.
A second with a comment.
All right, we have a second. Go ahead, Commissioner Ward.
Just real quick, and this is something we probably need to look at in the future. I know that the gas tax was due to COVID, but as we move to a time where we're going to start having some electrical vehicles, I think all of the automakers are starting to become aware of the carbon footprint. It's something that we need to take into consideration if we're not going to be getting as much fuel tax because of fuel versus electric. It's just something, food for thought in the future, that we need to think about a way to provide, to be able to still have these funds minus the fuel if they start going more towards electrical cars. Just a food for thought there.
Yep.
But
Commissioner Ward, I've had the same discussion with a couple of people, and some of them are our state representatives in the last 2 or 3 weeks anyway, because I've not heard anybody discuss yet minus gas tax revenue. Are they going to be looking at Duke Energy to give them part of their money? Yeah. Because they're electric vehicles. So yeah, it's going to be an issue going forward as more and more are going to electric cars. That's definitely going to be a reduction in gas tax proceeds. So yeah, that is valid. Any more discussion before we vote? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That passes 4-0.
Okay, item number 4, the State Attorney Information Technology line item. Franklin County received a request from Mary Dean Barwick, the Executive Director of the State Attorney's Office, to authorize a line item budget amendment, whereas the $6,500 budgeted in the State Attorney's Information Technology Contractual Services budget to be used for the funding of a shared information technology position. There will be no change in total budget for the State Attorney's Office. Board action to authorize the line item budget amendment and authorize the attached memo be sent back to Ms. Barwick to confirm the change.
So moved.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Ward, second by Commissioner Parrish. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That passes unanimously.
Okay, the next item is going to be item 5, Sheriff's Department E911 grants. And at your March 16th commission meeting, the board authorized signing the rapid deployment grant application. Attached to this report is the grant agreement, which was sent to the county from the Department of Management Services. The $63,960 grant is part of the Tri-County Rural Grant for 5 years of software licensing that will interface the newly updated mapping data with the E911 system at the Sheriff's Department. The Rapid Deploy system combines mapping and data analytics with cloud-based software. This grant is funding the replacement of the existing Geocom software, which is out of date. Board action to authorize the chairman to sign the attached grant agreement.
Pleasure of the board.
So moved.
We have a motion by Commissioner Parrish,
Second.
second by Commissioner Bolt. Any more discussion before we vote on signing this agreement? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That passes 4-0.
Okay, the second E911 component is County Attorney Michael Schuler reviewed the MOU between the 12 region counties relative to the $422,816 Region 1 GIS mapping project. The chairman signed the attached regional MOU on April 13th. The regional MOU was a necessary cornerstone of the regional grant application. As this is a 12-county project, all counties will be signing the MOU applications and vendor contracts to comprise one regional project. The 5-year grant will interface mapping data within the region and will leverage technology to enhance response time, provide additional mapping data, and services to process incoming 911 calls. Once the application is signed, a grant agreement will fall shortly after, along with the vendor contract and sole source provider letter. Board action to authorize the chairman's signature on the attached grant application for the 12-county Region 1 GIS E911 mapping grant.
So moved.
We have a motion by Commissioner Ward,
Second.
second by Commissioner Bolt to approve. Any discussion before we vote? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That passes unanimously. All right.
And the last item is an informational item, and it was for the tap fee for the St. George Island bathroom project. For the board record, included on the check for water management services is $13,745 tap fee as funded by the TDC for the new SGI bathroom project. The tap fee was not part of the construction bid and was the responsibility of the owner. The tap fee will be included in the total cost of the project.
Thank you, Aaron. Anyone have something for Ms. Aaron before we move on?
Isn't this a huge tap fee?
On the island, it's pretty consistent with what they are.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah, it was pretty big.
Aaron, you live over there. How much was your tap fee?
Mine was, I think, about $7,500.
Okay.
And that was for residential use.
Yeah.
So,
All right. Anything else? Thank you, Aaron. We appreciate it. All right, Mr. Morone, County Coordinator.
All right, Commissioners, we're on page 7, but a little bit up in the middle of the page. Item number 1, at your March 16, 2021 regular meeting, Commissioner Ward asked staff to investigate a possible Scrivener's error on the county's map located in the corner of Highway 98 and Highway 65 near Gramercy Plantation. Mr. Currington, County Planner, provided a series of maps and information attached including this report regarding the property in question. Based on the information provided, the board may decide there was a Scrivener's error, and Mr. Currington will make the necessary zoning change. However, if the board decides no error was made, then the zoning will remain as is. Board action to determine if a Scrivener's error was made based on the information provided.
I have a question based on what I'm looking at.
Okay, let me bring it up for everybody else.
Yes, please do. Is the area we're referring to on map 4 of his presentation? Scrolling down.
I see map 1,
Yeah.
let's see here, map 2, you said map 4, map 3,
Yes.
and we're now at map
Yes.
4.
So what I'm seeing that might be wrong, or it might be right. What I'm seeing is that where Highway 65 adjoins Highway 98, both sides of the road is zone C2. Is that what we're talking about, the Scrivener's area?
I think it's, if you look at your, I think it's map.
It's not, I'll let
One.
you stand up.
I don't know, I mean, I just saw this, I just looked this morning,
I
but
think map
Commissioner
one is the
Ward, go ahead.
actual- In the yellow shade, I
Yes.
believe that's the property in question.
Back up to
Oh,
map
okay.
1, Commissioner,
To
I'm
map,
sorry.
map 1.
Okay.
Map 1, I'm
Right
sorry.
there.
Map 1.
So, it's a little bit further east than what we were just looking at, Commissioner, with the 2 C2s, I believe.
So what is, I guess what I'm trying to make sure, what error are we saying was committed? That it should be C4 and a Z1, or, I mean, what's the error we're looking at? Because to me, it's unclear. And it was the whole time I was reading it.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
This item was brought to my attention just before the meeting started, and I'm curious, were any of the prior minutes of the board searched? Because I don't think this is a new issue. I think, Alan, you helped me remember, but I think we've had to deal with this issue once or twice in the past, so there should be some board minutes with some historical data.
I'm looking for the first time also this morning. Mark and I were both here in 1997, and he didn't, not that he needed to, but he hasn't talked to me about this at all, so he's created these maps, and I'm looking at it for the first time. I mean,
I have this tickling memory that there's been a request for the board to look at Scrivener's errors relative to either Gramercy or property adjacent to Gramercy in the past. I would need to go back and look at the minutes to figure out.
Well, there was a lot of
and
debate.
it could be a different question completely. I don't know.
Yeah, the one I remember is on the north side of the Gramercy boundary up there, the C2 area where the borrow pit is on the very north.
Right.
And that's what
remember
I'm
that.
looking at as well. It almost looks like they drew the C2 mark. Is Mark available, do we know, that he
Yeah,
can maybe answer some questions, questions for us?
I mean, if I'm comparing the maps, with map 1 shows the land just north of the intersection of CC Land Road, but if I look on map 4, that to me looks like preservation. I mean, there's CC Land Road, and anything
map-
north of that, the
Yeah.
map has preservation. I don't have any way of knowing which is right, except I don't always refer to Mark's map, and if he had showed preservation, then that's what that looks like to me, but I don't have any other.
You can scroll with your finger from your maps.
I doubt I can.
Okay, I'll scroll for you. Tell me what you want to go.
Well, I don't know what y'all,
This was my question, Mark. In looking at this stuff with Gramercy, are we saying the error is that the property should be zone C2 and it actually is P1? Or are we saying that it should be zone, you know what I mean? What error are we looking
This
at?
one, he wants to know where is the error in here.
yes. They've asked that area that's north of the power line, just east of 65, it's shown in yellow in the earlier map.
Right.
It's shown as preservation on our current zoning map.
Did they give any documentation why it should have been C2? Because my recollection is all the commercial was south of the power line.
Right. What they gave is, no, that map. I mean, that's the map that was submitted when we did the original
Oh, I
zoning
see.
years ago.
Huh. Okay.
Back in 2006 or whatever it was.
So are the, Mark, I'm just trying to clarify, I'm sorry. So they're saying that our current map shows it as preservation land, but it actually should be zone C2.
That is what they're saying, yes.
And,
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, if that's the case, there should be board action that would support
back that up.
that assertion.
Okay. Okay, so is that something we can, I guess, try to look in the minutes and bring it back so we can clarify this?
I think that would be appropriate, because if in fact there's action of the board that says
It should be recorded.
a certain zoning or land use category, and
Yep.
there's board action to reflect that, but the mapping shows an error,
Yep.
then that would be a factual basis. But at
Right.
this point, I'm hearing an allegation, but I'm not seeing any evidence of board action saying one thing, but the map shows something else.
Yeah, I'm surprised that Dan, or someone who was involved in this thing in 1996, is now waiting, 24 years to notice this difference. I wonder what.
I don't think this is the first time this has come up.
Okay, I'll defer to you. I don't.
mean, we need to look at the minutes to verify my memory. I mean, there's a reason we have records and don't go by memory, but I think we should at least take the time to check the records.
Okay.
Do a complete investigation.
Commissioner Parrish?
Most definitely, because what we're talking about is some of this land was supposed to be held in conservation, preservation, whatever you want to say. But now we're being asked, was it supposed to be in preservation, or was it supposed to be C2 commercial? And what the intention of the board was in 1997. None of us on the board today was here in 1997.
No.
So to me, I'm relying more on staff, county staff's recommendation as to what they remember.
Yeah.
But a lot of times when you grant development ideas and they agree to set property aside for preservation, that figures into why you granted everything else they wanted.
That's
You
right.
understand what I'm saying? So, but I don't know. I wasn't here in 1997, so I've asked Alan about it, I've asked the attorney about it, and nobody seems to recall. But I do recall some controversy having to do with this northern land in Gramercy Plantation. I think with Mr. Rick Plessinger, but I'm not sure. Come to the county several times, and we always referred back to the homeowners association of Gramercy. What was their intention? He thought they had the intention of this, but the homeowners association comes back and says, no, this is what we wanted and what we asked for. So I don't know if this is the same issue that we're dealing with here today, but I definitely don't know what the intention of was board in 1997.
So where did this site plan come from?
Mr.
I don't know. It sounds like it needs to be tabled to give staff time to review and come up with some better recommendations for this board, rather than for us to try to
Guess.
spell out what the intention of the board was in 1997.
Yeah, I don't think we can do that here today.
I can't.
Mr. Chairman, if I could just ask, Mr. Mark, on this map that's currently on the screen, I see the conservation area, the two areas outlined in red, is that what they're speaking of?
Those are the two commercial areas.
Okay, so what we're talking about is just above, north of that.
We're talking about that little wedge that's just north of us.
It's outlined in blue?
Yeah, it's just north of the power line. We're talking, the area marked is right here.
Okay.
That little part of red is just north of the power line.
All right.
Our zoning map shows every north of power line as preservation.
Okay.
They're saying, no, the site plan we sent you all had some commercial just north of the power line.
Okay. So, I guess pleasure of the board, but it looks like it'd be better to table it for today and bring it back when we have the correct information.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to table this and have further investigation.
Just out of curiosity, Mark, do you know how many acres are involved here? What's the size of the disputed
I
area?
don't know the size of the discrepancy. The size of that southern commercial area was 6 acres.
All right, so we're dealing with not a lot of land.
Sure doesn't look like it.
Mr. Chairman, if I might, to a certain extent, we're talking about who has the burden of proof here. I'm not sure the county needs to go through and search our records and spend staff time justifying what our maps are showing. I think we would be entitled to presume that our maps are correct. And the applicant should be the one to spend the time to provide to the county written evidence to support their request, instead of them making a request and then us searching through the records and say, well, hey, how do we justify our existing map? I think the burden should be on the applicant. Let them present the evidence to the county staff, let staff look at it, and if there are additional questions, then the staff can ask for additional information. So that's what I think the burden of proof should be on, not the county.
Okay. So, based on your advice to this board, Commissioner Ward, you would draw your motion to have staff look at this?
I do. I'm just, if you look at map 1, I'm a little confused because it says there was an ordinance, Greenpoint Plan Unit Development District Ordinance 91-4. Is that an ordinance that the county made, or this, apparently it was a PUD? Back in 1996, the Board of County Commissioners gave final approval to the abandonment of the Greenpoint Development of Regional Impact, which included the repeal ordinance.
Right.
Ordinance had designated what could be built at the northeast corner of Highway 65 and Highway 98. To replace the PUD, the Board of County Commissioners adopted new zoning for the property on February 18, 1997. The new zoning included 2 tracts of C2, a 6-acre tract located near the intersection of Highway 98 and Highway 65. So is that what, it was intended for a hotel in a 16-acre tract further north on Highway 65 that was designated for retail space. I'm a little confused. It seems like it's contradictory in what, I don't know. I will amend my motion. I do agree with you, Attorney Schuler, if it's something that the applicant is looking at trying to change. I was told it was a Scrivener's error. Apparently it seems like there's more to it than that. So I will amend my motion to say that the applicant or property owner might need to investigate this and come back with that request once they do their investigation, I guess.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor.
Also, second.
Commissioner Ward, second by Commissioner Bolt. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That's unanimous. Mark, thank you for your time.
Thank you,
sir.
Mark.
Okay, Mr. Brown?
Okay, we are at item 2, I believe. Previously, the board requested Appalachian Regional Planning Council to conduct a workshop throughout the county to hear from residents on code enforcement for unincorporated Franklin County. At your last meeting, Ms. Caroline Smith of ARPC reviewed a proposal with the board to provide the requested service. Included in my report is an agreement for the chairman's signature to authorize ARPC to conduct these workshops. The agreement has been reviewed by Attorney Schuler.
So move.
We have a motion to approve by Commissioner Ward,
Second.
second by Commissioner Bolt. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That passes unanimously. And Michael,
Yes, sir.
refresh my memory. They're talking about being able to start sometime in June?
Yes,
Potential
because of
meetings?
other pending,
Right.
because of other pending projects that they
Okay.
had, yes.
Thank
So
you.
they're going to try their best to move along as to coincide with the board starting your budget process. So, yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. All right, go ahead.
Move on. Let me get this one up here for you before I start to read. Here you go. Okay, I'm ahead of the game this time. So, item 3, Mr. Collins of AFCON, John Collins, presented 3 different locations for a new airport fuel farm. He did that at your last meeting. After the presentation, the board decided to schedule a workshop to discuss the different locations in more detail. After the meeting, Mr. Pierce realized that he used the recently constructed FDOT-funded airport access road as a required match for the TRAMP grant application to fund the new fuel farm. Mr. Pierce then contacted Mr. Collins, and they both agreed that the only location to consider building the new fuel farm is what is referred to as alternate site 2. You see it there off to the left on the west apron on the attached map. With that information, there was no need for the scheduled April 14th workshop to discuss all 3 locations, therefore it was canceled. If there are no additional questions or comments on this matter, the board can authorize proceeding with that location today. And if I can bring it up, I think Mr. Mosteller, Chairman, had asked to speak on this too. Then I'm going to allow you to go ahead and speak on this. Talk. Okay, I still unmute. All right, sir, if you unmute, you can state your name for the record, Mr. Mosteller, and start speaking to the board. You are still muted, sir. Ted, you're still up. You're still muted. There you
How
go.
about now?
There you go.
Okay, got to do this thing 2 or 3 times to make it work. Good morning again, Ted Mosteller. I kind of rest where we are now. I do have the question though, why are we building a new fuel farm when the one is there and operating? It just needs servicing and refurbishing. These are very expensive fuel tanks, and to my knowledge, there's nothing wrong with them other than they need to be sandblasted and painted again. We did this back in '06 when we moved it there, and the concrete pond is there that the trucks park in, as far as I know, is usable. The only thing that's not working to my knowledge is the self-serve, which is another issue. Other than that, that's the only question I have at this time.
All right, Ted, thank you very much.
Thank you very much for listening.
All right, commissioners. So are we ready to move ahead? Are there any more questions or comments regarding the project?
Just to, Alan, clarify what you meant about the Triumph funds and how it relates to the road accessing this fuel.
Well, all right, so here's an opportunity. As the board is aware, the Franklin County's been part of the Triumph's inception, and we've been having a very difficult time trying to get funding. So when Hurricane Michael came along, and the airport was such a key component in getting the recovery going, and we were the only place for fuel for the Coast Guard, the Triumph board said, well, look, what can we do for the airport? And they basically were, they wanted to reward us for our efforts. And so while the fuel farm is maybe functioning properly, it is some 20 years old. The tanks are 20 years old. Yeah, you could sandblast them and repaint them, but if you can get new ones, why not get new ones? So this is what was the desire, to get new stuff and get new stuff without having to use DOT every time. And so the Triumph wanted to have some skin in the game for the county. Initially, and then the applications, as you all may recall, went on for months, if not a year or more, trying to work out the details of what Triumph would accept. Well, they finally accepted that we would use this airport access road that was under construction. But so Triumph board wanted someone else's money in there besides just their own money. And after a lot of debate, a lot of negotiation, they agreed to use DOT money as match. And the current project that was underway was that access road. So I said, well, let's just do the access road. It's already under contract. And so they said yes. And so that access road leads through the fuel farm, so it was logical to use it. And so that's how that access road came to be there. I see. Could there have been another project? There could have been, but this one was under construction at the time. And because I was, and it's still going on, FDOT was juggling their timeline of contracts because of the COVID and the lack of, and the slowdown of resources. So I didn't want to commit to another airport project when I wasn't sure when it was going to get completed, because Triumph wanted to see that money invested. Over here we had the access road already under construction. The Triumph board was satisfied the road, that the money was there, it was being spent, and so they said, yeah, let's use the access road. So that's how the access road was picked, because it was under construction at the time this grant was awarded. And so it's all sort of one big funding part. Could the board go through an exercise to change that grant award? Yeah, you could, but why?
Alan, it took close to a year to get them to say yes.
Yes, it took.
From when we started to when they actually said yes.
Yes. And one of the issues is, and I understand from the Triumph board, this is really an emergency management, state of Florida issue, this fuel farm, and the backup generator, which was the key to backup generator. And at one point, DOT had promised to the county that because we had played a critical role, DOT wanted to get some credit for helping us, so DOT was going to give us a backup generator. Well, unfortunately, DOT overcommitted backup generators to airports, and so they got one for the new airport at Panama City and also for Mariana, and they didn't have enough for us. So, we just basically asked Triumph to fund it all, and they said yes. And I was very fortunate and very happy that they were doing this, because again, it's money coming to Franklin County, and it took a battle to get what we got. I was going to say was the Triumph board really didn't want to fund this kind of emergency management stuff. They wanted someone else to, but because of the premier position the Apalachicola Airport played in Hurricane Michael, they agreed to do it.
Good point.
Thank you, Alan.
Thank you.
All right, pleasure of the board.
Mr. Chairman, I'm gonna make a motion to authorize the construction of a new airport fuel farm at alternate site 2.
Okay, I have a motion to approve by Commissioner Parrish.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Bolt. Any discussion before we vote? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That is a 4-0 vote, Jessica.
That's a good thing.
All right, Mr. Morone.
All right, Commissioners, we did item 4 already. Let's skip to item 5 in the middle of page 8. At your last meeting, Chairman Jones requested, and the board agreed by motion, to lower the speed limit to 25 miles per hour on East Pine Street on St. George Island's Business District. The chairman informed me later on that the new speed limit should have been 20, not 25, and the section of West Pine Street located in the business district should also be included in that speed limit change for all the same reasons that he stated at the last meeting. So all I need is board action to reduce the speed limit on the sections of East Pine and West Pine. They're both on the sections that's both located in St. George Island's Business District to 20 miles per hour.
So move.
We have a motion by Commissioner Ward,
Second?
second by Commissioner Bolt. I have a discussion item. I just want to make sure the board is aware and the public is aware. I actually misspoke. It already was 25. So I got the board to agree to change it to what it already was. We're changing it to 20 potentially here today because of the increased traffic in the business district, the increased foot traffic, all those different things. We're just trying to look out for the safety and well-being not only of our residents, but all who visit our county by reducing these speed limits.
And you know, when it says 20, they'll go 30.
That's potential, but you know, this was also done in connection with the Franklin County Sheriff's Office and their recommendations, and they're the ones that they'll be talking to if they decide to go too fast.
Yep.
Be careful, Commissioner Bolt. We got a pretty good traffic deputy that works for the sheriff.
Yes, we sure do.
Very careful.
Absolutely.
I don't know that guy. but
Getting them
I
new
heard-
signs, too.
I heard his name.
Okay, any more discussion before we vote? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That passed unanimously. Thank you, Commissioners.
Commissioners, we already addressed item 6. Let's go to item 7 at your June 16, 2020 meeting. Seems like a long time ago. The board discussed increasing the tourist development tax from 2% to 3% and ended that discussion with a motion to schedule a public hearing to increase the tax. Later on, during the same meeting, the board also motioned to schedule a workshop with TDC to discuss how the additional funds would be spent. That workshop was postponed and never rescheduled. The public hearing was never advertised or scheduled. Is the board ready to schedule the public hearing, and rather than having a separate workshop, have a representative from TDC appear at the public hearing to discuss possible future projects? So basically, I was asking to advertise so we can schedule this public hearing.
So move.
And second?
We have a motion to approve going to a public hearing by Commissioner Ward, second by Commissioner Bolt. I have some from the discussion. Commissioners, I do agree with the motion to move forward. I do believe that the workshop setting is going to be reproduced at the public hearing anyway because it gives time for the public to bring their input. And I do remind the commission and the public that our next meeting scheduled 2 weeks from today is going to be open to the public in this room. So thank you for your motion and second today. Is it everyone ready to vote? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That passes 4-0, Jessica. Go ahead, sir.
Mr. Chairman, item 8, about 2 weeks ago, Congressman Dunn's office sent a request for congressionally directed community project funding. That's the application with an April 19th submission deadline, which was yesterday. As time was an issue, I asked Ms. Tracy Busby to assist the county with the application. Since this information was already available, the county submitted application for the construction of a new EOC and additional funding for Fort Coombs Armory Fire Sprinkler System. Each application required a letter of support signed by the chairman, so I just need a board to ratify the chairman's signature on those letters of support. So basically, we sent it in yesterday. We sent it for construction of our EOC, since we know we're not going to get funded for that this year by the legislature. That's no fact. And hopefully we will get funded for the Fort Coombs sprinkler system, but that's at $250, and the price has gone up since then. So basically, hopefully this will help us complete that project also. So that's why I submitted those two. We had all that information already as legislative appropriation requests, so that made it easier, and we sent them in yesterday.
Yeah.
I have a motion by Commissioner Parrish,
Second.
second by Commissioner Ward. Any discussion?
I have a comment.
All right, go ahead, Commissioner Bolt.
Isn't some of the funding support for the Coombs Armory relative to what Jason Schoaf is doing?
Yes.
Legislatively speaking?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
That's what I thought.
Any more discussion before we vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, before we move forward, I do have something to say. I didn't want to interrupt this motion, but speaking on Congressman Neil Dunn's request, I know legislatively we have responsibilities of what we need and what our requests are. I don't know if you guys saw out front, but there's barricades now at Forbes Street blocking the street. In addition, there's on Leslie Street, the barricade's still there from a potential leak pipe that runs.
Yeah.
My concern is this, and I spoke with Madam Clerk Maxwell. I know she's not here right now, but I did speak with her about this. I have a concern that if the pipe that's in question that's leaking or whatever, where's that water going? We've already got 2 streets, and if you look further down on Leslie Street, there's a sinkhole. Looks like there's a little dip there. And I looked at the road, and of course you can look straight down. My concern is if there's a compromise in the piping or something underneath going between Leslie Street and Forbes Street, the courthouse runs right in the middle. My concern structurally, how is the courthouse in terms of being structurally sound if we've got water that we don't know where it's going?
Let me clarify one thing. So I apologize, Commissioner Ward. The street on the other side of the courthouse, that is?
Leslie.
That's a stormwater drain.
Okay.
The one over here is a sewage problem.
Okay.
So the one over here is a lift station, and there is some infiltration of stormwater into that, but there's not a connection between the two.
Okay.
The Leslie Street is, the stormwater drain goes right down the middle of the street, and there's an outfall down there, and apparently there's cracks in that concrete, and so I don't think the two are connected. But Leslie has been there, has been a problem for a long time, but I don't think the two are.
So Leslie is undermined because basically the dirt washed away, they didn't know where
the
it got.
stormwater drain runs right down the middle of the street.
Yeah.
And so when that became a weakness, and that was put in, I don't know, a long time ago. So the joints have separated. I mean, it's an old concrete, big 4-foot diameter, 6-foot diameter concrete pipe down there. And over time it's settled, joints separate, so dirt is washed into the joints, and that's what's caused that collapse or that uncertainty of that road structure. I can't speak as well for this one, but this one has got a lift station involved, and there's sewage issues. I mean, you know more about that.
Yeah, well, it's not sewage. I think, speaking of Travis,
stormwater getting into
infiltration into the system.
But the two are not connected.
But I also think it's some kind of undermining because that road is sinking.
Yeah. But I don't think there's a pipe going underneath the courthouse. To my knowledge.
Okay. I just was concerned because it looked like things keep dipping down, and I'm just concerned. I don't want any be a safety risk or anything for anybody.
Mike,
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chair, all this seemed to accumulate, have a devastating effect after Hurricane Michael.
Yes.
And there's GDR monies available to address some of these issues as it relates to all the water coming up into Apalachicola and then quickly going back to the river.
Yes.
Seems like the city could apply for some of that infrastructure money to fix some of this stuff.
Yeah.
And if a letter of support from the county would help the city in their application, should they apply for that? I mean, I'd like to be able to give them a letter of support if they apply for those disaster recovery monies to fix this infrastructural problem that seems to be prevailing after Hurricane Michael.
Interesting that you say that, Commissioner, because when I talked to Travis last week for an update on Forbes Street, that's exactly what he said to me he spent all last week doing, finishing up his CDBG DR applications. So I guess I could ask him, hey, is that going to help Leslie Street? Forbes Street, like Mr. Perez said, seems a slightly different situation. They think that's a quicker fix. But I'm not hearing positive things about Leslie Street right now, to be very honest with you, But I'll ask Travis. Now, Commissioner Ward, is it, not that I don't trust Mr. Pierce, I'll take him that close to the edge of the cliff, to be very honest with you. But do you want me to talk to Clay at Dewberry and just kind of confirm what Alan is saying and then report back to the board? Because I'm sure Dewberry may have staff, correct?
Now, Dewberry's not going to know anything about the city's sewer. Well, I shouldn't say that. Dewberry is one of the consulting firms for the city of Apalachicola, but to my knowledge, they haven't done a lot of work on that. I think I would just ask Travis, ask the city directly. Is there, they own the city.
Yeah, I did. So.
Well, the issue is, sorry, Mr. Chairman, is yes, it's a county courthouse, but it's between, what, two city streets.
Yeah.
So that poses a problem too. And like I said, and the courthouse is old and outdated. Get a new courthouse. I understand all the logistics associated with that, but my concern is, like I said, I don't want there to be any integrity of the foundation of the courthouse or the ground underneath to be compromised. As Mr. Pierce said, he doesn't think that's the problem. But again, I feel like it's personally, I know I'm one of 5, but it's the board's responsibility to ensure that the safety of our courthouse employees is of utmost importance. And again, I'm not saying that there's anything underneath it that's undermining the structural integrity of the courthouse. I just would like, perhaps contact Travis and see what he says and y'all confer. I'll help out any which way I can. But again, it's just a concern that I have. And yes, I would have a better peace of mind and be able to sleep better at night knowing if our courthouse employees are safe.
In the words of President Reagan, better trust and verify. Let's check it out.
So let's wrap this up and get us back to where we're going. Jessica, did you record that last vote was 4-0? Did you catch that? I want to make sure, because I don't think we ever give an opportunity for anybody to oppose it. And I'm guessing nobody did oppose it, or they would have spoken up. Yeah, I'm good with us. Look, 2 different approaches to this. We can leave it alone and just see what happens, or we can do the necessary thing and try to have the research done and make sure that it's not undermined.
Yeah.
I would be in favor of trying to make sure that that building is not undermined, because I've expressed the same thing to you, Mr. Morone, in the last couple of weeks. One's on one corner, one's on the other corner. Our building's in between.
Yep.
So I would be in favor of that, but it is the pleasure of the board. And I also would be in favor of this board doing a letter of support for the city of Appalachia to address the CDBG DR for the stormwater on Leslie Street.
Okay.
And the lift station on Ford Street. But, that's the pleasure of this board.
So, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I'm going to ask for direction. Basically, you want me to contact Travis first, bring that back in the next meeting, then we'll decide if we need to go further with checking the structure of the courthouse and the foundation. Is that what I'm hearing? We're good?
I believe who is the city? Do you know who the city's engineers are, or is it Dewberry, or is it someone else?
The city employees will actually know where
Yeah,
the
the city
pipes
employees
are,
will probably know
not
better than
from the sewer
consultant engineer,
department.
but the city contract has a list of consulting engineers that they use, and I don't know which one has been more.
I think Dewberry's
involved.
one. I want to believe Clay has something to do with Leslie Street.
Okay,
I'll ask. I'll
ask.
double check and I'll ask.
Okay. So you're going to get the information and bring it back?
Bring it
to the
back, and
next
then you
meeting?
guys give me
So we
further
potentially
direction.
take both of these actions?
Yes.
Okay. I'm
I'll
good
talk-
with that if everybody else is.
I'll talk to Travis and Clay and come back to the board.
Okay.
Express your concerns and see what,
Yeah.
what both of their recommendations
Commissioner
are.
Ward, does that address your concerns?
Yes, thank you.
What about the rest of you? You're good with that? Okay.
And if it's not too late, I'll find out by the letter of support, Commissioner Parrish, and I'll get the chairman to sign. I can ratify it at the next meeting, if it's not too late, because I know he acted like he had to submit them on Friday.
Okay. All right, sir.
We're good? So where are we now? Abercrombie, okay. So a few years ago, the board approved a video security system for a number of locations, Abercrombie Boat Ramp being one of those locations. There are a few hurdles to overcome at the boat ramp: power, and a solution for accessing the video due to communication access restrictions. Power at the boat ramp has been available for some time. However, we had to make other concessions as it relates to the communication issue. Of all the companies that have asked for proposals, I recommend a proposal from Inspire Technology. Without revealing too much information, they have the best workaround for accessing the recorded video from the cameras. The total amount of this proposal is $9,497. Board action to accept that proposal, that quote from Inspire Technology for the installation of a CCTV camera security system at Abercrombie Boat Ramp.
So moved with comment.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Parrish to approve.
Second.
Second by 2, Commissioner Bolt and Commissioner Ward. Go ahead, Commissioner Parrish.
This has been a long time coming, trying to get this done. A year and a half, 2 years ago, there were people launching their boats and going up the river. Well, 2 people came back with all 4 tires cut on their car, and all the boat trailer tires cut. So when they got back, they could not pull their boat out and go to town or go back home because all the tires on the vehicles and their boat trailers were flattened. That led to trying to put some video out there. There's also some of the county property being destroyed, whether out there partying at night or whatever they're doing. So that's what's led to the need for these security cameras. So you try to build a nice place for the public to be able to access the river, and then you have people that are not willing to help us take care of it. So that's where this come from, and I'm glad to see it moving forward. Because it's pretty bad when you ask people, you build a place for people to launch their boats and access the river, but when then they come back, their vehicles are compromised and so on and so forth. So I went out there 2 weeks ago and somebody had a fire going and everything they owned, I guess, thrown up on the picnic table, which camping is not allowed. But the fire was going. I had to call the sheriff and have them go out and remove the person from out there. So having these video cameras will help us be able to ascertain exactly who is out there destroying public property, and give the people that leave their vehicles there a sense of security, knowing that when they come back, maybe their stuff won't be tore up, tires slashed. And we all know how much a tire costs for a vehicle. You got to replace all 4 of them, and then do the same for your boat trailer. And of course, when you come back and your tires are slashed, and you don't have no way to go get no help. So I mean, just a host of issues, and I'm glad to see this issue moving forward.
Then we've also, Commissioner Parrish, I can remember, didn't we have a time we were having a problem keeping lights out there because people were shooting the lights out?
Yep. Fortunately, we've been, yes, when we had phone lights out there. Now we have electric lights, which makes it even that more critical, but having these video surveillance cameras out there is going to help protect the county's investment.
Yes, sir.
Where is the monitor for these cameras? Do you know? Is it at the sheriff's office?
Yeah, Commissioner, I'll tell you after the meeting.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so any more discussion before we vote on this approval? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That passes unanimously, 4-0.
Okay. Item 10, you guys had a motion about it this morning, but I'll clarify as I read this now. So early in the meeting, the board heard from the warden regarding inmate labor and prison closings. Prior to last week's message and information from the warden this morning, the state legislature was considering closing 4 prisons. During the time when this was a probability, there was a call to action to send the Florida Senate President and the Speaker of the House a letter asking that the Franklin County Correctional Institute would not be included on the list of possible prison closures. Chairman Jones signed the letter, and it was immediately sent to the Senate President and the Speaker of the House. Board action to ratify the chairman's signature on the letter. What I will do, based on the motion this morning, is resend this letter saying we want to make sure that you got it the first time and you're clear. We still feel the same way, so to satisfy the motion this morning. It'll be the same letter about the same information.
I mean, if we've already, Mr. Chairman, if we've already done it, Mike, I mean.
Well, it don't hurt.
I was just going by based on what the warden was asking us. He was asking us to help do something, and I guess I missed this number 10 on the report. Or forgot that I read it last night.
Yeah, I just didn't want to interrupt this morning.
The warden probably didn't know that we'd already sent a letter. You know what I mean?
True.
And Michael, I think this call to action was from Small County Coalition and from FAC.
It was. It was from both. Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
yeah.
I should have mentioned that.
It's all good.
But I'm going to make a motion to ratify the chairman's signature on the letter.
Okay, so motion by Commissioner Parrish. Second by both Commissioner Ward and Commissioner Bolt. Any discussion before we vote? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? That passes unanimously.
Okay, good. If you don't mind, Mr. Chairman, a few informational items I do want to touch on. I'm currently working with Ms. Becky Berenston of FAC on registering each of you for ethics class, which actually was done yesterday. Ethics class video that we can show right here in the county commission room. I just need y'all to check your schedule, and you can call me during the week and let me know which is the best Saturday in May to show this class. So you can do it as a group in here. If that Saturday is not good for one of you, you can do it as an individual, either which way, commissioners. But I know your intention was for everybody to see it inside this meeting room.
Well, what we're trying to do, number one, we all have to do ethics training. Number two, talking with Ms. Berenson at the Association of Counties, she said, Commissioner, y'all can look, y'all can just pay for one, watch it all together, and it saves the county money, and you still do your required training. So that was the intent behind it.
Mr. Chairman, I'm good with, like we've been doing over the years, coming in and viewing the video together. But, you know, they do this again at the conference. But it's a 6 hours. You're not required to take but 4 hours.
Right, right.
So if we do this video stuff, you know, I'd like to do 4 hours, not 6 hours.
Well, they got it broke down into three different,
So you
there's three different videos, so you
accumulate
can,
your 4
yes,
hours, and
yes.
that's as far as you have
Yes.
to go with it. If you go
Yes.
to the one down there at our conference, annual
It's 6.
conference, it's 6 hours long, and you got to be there the whole 6 hours when you're not required to have 6 hours. And furthermore, you have to do this every year. You know, I don't really agree with that. I agree with if you're reelected or you need a refresher course, you know. Every year you go through the same thing. I mean, if you don't forget from one year to the next, you probably don't need to be a commissioner. Because you're not retaining much. You understand what I'm saying? It gets aggravating sometimes and frustrating when you have to listen to the same stuff year after year, I mean, you forgot what you learned last year, and you know something's up anyway.
What?
But that's what the law is.
Oh, yeah.
That's what the law is. So
It
we
is.
all have to abide by the law. I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying I don't want to listen to 6 hours of it when I'm only required to listen to 4 hours.
Yes.
They got it broke down in different sessions, and also to further highlight what you're trying to say. So yes, they do offer it, like you can do it when you go to a Florida Association of Counties conference, but you have to show up a day early and spend half a day doing it, or most of a day doing it. You know, you have to show up, you know, ahead of time to get that done, so.
Yeah, if we take it here, we can get extra time down there to take other courses we really need.
That's correct.
Yes.
Yes.
I will say this, Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Bolt has not given me a Saturday, but he has put in a request for my wife to do that pound cake again.
Oh,
So-
There you go. So we're going to come for pound cake.
Yeah.
There you
so- Just letting you all know. Okay, so just get with me during the week, just look at your calendars and get me, and I'll coordinate a day and let everybody
I'm
know.
good with whatever Saturday the rest of the board is good with.
Okay.
I am as well.
Yeah, I am as well. Okay.
The second item, I was informed by Ms. Kim Bodine, a Career Source Gulf Coast, that Hurricane Michael grant will close on April 30th. I mean, all those workers that we have, especially with Mr. Fonda Davis, their last day is April 30th. There's no more money. They weren't able to secure any more money, so that's the end of that program. Ms. Bodine and I have been missing each other, unfortunately, more me not answering the phone than her, unfortunately, since last week, so I'll try to connect with her. But she did send me an email saying that program is over.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
where do we use these employees the most? Does Buster use any of them? Or
Buster
they're all with
was
Fonda?
mostly with
Mostly
Fonda.
Fonda.
Buster was using some because they were allowed to clean ditches and stuff because to keep them free because of Hurricane Michael and storms. But Fonda uses them more on repairing buildings and stuff. He had them do some work on.
Allen View Park.
There you go.
Beautiful.
I was going to say something else, but Allen View Park, yes, sir. That's
Yep.
yes. They did a lot of work.
Did a
out
nice
there.
job there.
But I hope that answers your question, Commissioner. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, next, there's a school board event in here that asked me to use the room. There is a youth mental health workshop. They're gonna have it here at 6 o'clock this evening, so if you see cars, I'll be here. They're doing it like a hybrid situation. Some people are coming in. I think they're gonna try and use Zoom to also to talk to people. They're doing one in Eastport and one in Carabel later on in the month. And finally, don't forget, 2 o'clock today when we leave here, the ribbon cutting ceremony at St. George Island Public Bathrooms. And that's it, Commissioner.
Thank you,
That's all I
Mike.
have for you guys.
2 o'clock today?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
I'm glad you said that, because I will.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
I'll have to come
Yeah.
over and come back and get you, sir, if
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
the case.
I will.
Michael, before we're done with you, well, it's not you, but before we move on to Attorney Schuler. So I'd asked staff about, I've been hearing, commissioners, that the proposed bid that was sent out by FWC for the materials going to be put in the bay was going to all be lime rock, and I have asked staff to reach out to FWC to either confirm or deny that, and Alan's, I think, got a report that he can give us.
Yeah,
on
so
that.
I called the staff this morning, and so basically, it's a $500,000 experimental contract or for experimental basis. It is using smaller parts of limestone, but it is limestone. It's a 4-acre, $500,000 project that is also being monitored by FSU, by the Bay Initiative, and they're going to be testing sort of profiles of as you may recall, previously they put lime rock out and sort of end up on a flat tabletop, and it was the pieces were too big and people couldn't adequately tong, and it wasn't really a good substrate for oyster shells. So they're going to try different using smaller pieces, but it is limestone. But I did talk to them, and they're going to be talking to FSU, because FSU is sort of giving FWC the feedback. They will be looking at, while it's a $500,000 contract and it's intended to be limestone, there are 3 materials they could be using. And the individual I talked to couldn't remember all 3 materials, but lime rock was one. Concrete could be one if the board is interested in saying about concrete in smaller chunks. So they're using concrete in Louisiana, and seems to have success over there. And then I don't know what the third one, but he was open to suggestions for this experimental one. This is, I will say, leading to a much larger, multi-million-dollar reshelling, not reshelling program, but what do you want to call it? Restoration program next year or so. So this is a test to try and do a better job of putting the substrate out there than they did with the big chunks of lime rock. So it is going to lead to a much larger project in a year or two.
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead.
I favor using oyster shell. Steve Rash out there has a pile of oyster shells bigger than this building.
Yeah.
Well,
but having said that, when all this reshelling was going on earlier with using the oystermen to reshell the bay and all this, the reason we ended up with lime rock is because, according to DATS, which will run that program, if he wanted to use oyster shell or fossilized shell, then it would be the department would be sued by people providing limestone, lime rock, and they could provide twice as much for half the cost.
Right.
Well, it's kind of like bidding a road. You know, you got one person to do a mile for $1 million, and you got another person to do a mile for $500,000. Well, pretty much the state requires you to accept the low bid, unless you got a reason not to accept the low bid. So that's why they end up using limestone in the bay rather than the fossilized shell. And that was a big concern for me earlier when Mr. Langston, I think the last meeting, was talking about he was going to mine this fossilized shell for the recovery of Apalachicola Bay. And I'm saying, well, who's proposed to buy it from you? Because as I talk to the state agencies, they say, we tried to do that, and people turn around and sue the department because we can provide limestone coming out of Kentucky or whatever at half the cost it would cost to use fossilized shell. And the courts would rule with those. So you got all that going on, which I'd rather use the best substrate, which to me is oyster shell. But when you plant limestone, lime rock, concrete, it lays as flat as this tabletop. When you do plant oyster shell, some of them are up, angled over this way, and it helps catch the spat to rejuvenate the bay. The only way the spat is going to set on this stuff is if the currents, the winds, the tides, and all allows the spat to just settle down on top of it, not being caught up by the winds and the tides to allow the spat to attach to an oyster shell and rejuvenate these bars. So I don't really like the limestone or anything else. I'd rather use oyster shell. Will it cost a little more? Probably. Will it do a better job? Absolutely.
Yes.
But I'm not on the decision-making process. This is the way I feel about it. And you can use, there's been some remarks about building up the reefs and then planting something on the reef. In other words, get the reefs up some.
I think that's what they're trying to approach in this thing, because
that makes sense to use some of this other substrate to build up the oyster ball, which they call a reef, and then come back and do some planting with seed oysters, oyster shells, which is a better substrate for the spat to attach to. The spat likes to attach to a clean, smooth surface. You know, if there's put out there a year before you have a spat set, it becomes silted over and the spat attached to it, and it just falls off because it's not a clean, smooth surface. Scallop shells work real well because you steam them open like we used to do over here where I shell scallop. You steam them open, which steam cleans everything, especially the inside of that shell. So they made it, but they're not as tall and not as big as an oyster shell, which gives you more space for the spat to attack. But it does work. There aren't any scallop shells anymore either. But anyway, that's my feelings on that.
Yeah.
When you're talking about lime rock or fossilized shell, they're just not as good as the inside of rock.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
You know, it seems to me that we should make a counter proposal that we should be talking about oyster shells as a substrate. This is an old pro who just spoke to us, understands this stuff, and he's got obviously some functional background on what's going on. So I think we ought to ask for the oyster shell as an alternate substrate. Then I had a follow-up comment after that.
Well, so the whole reason I wanted to address this, number one, is I had literally a ton of people, and I'm sorry I'm a captive audience sometimes where I work at the auto parts. They know where to find me.
Behind that counter, huh?
Yeah, they know where to find me. And they're very concerned about the lime rock. I can tell you of any material we discuss here today, lime rock should be on the bottom of the list. Lime rock will change the pH level in the water. The last time they put it out, it caused the water to turn real white and milky in the area.
Yep.
And, you know, I can't prove that it was detrimental to the bay, but I can tell you what has happened in the bay since it was put in. And furthermore, talking with some of the different people, since currently our bay is closed and a lot of oysters being bought from Louisiana, they had the oil spill. We thought it was coming here, but it actually was in their waters, okay? They experienced it. They put concrete through a machine that makes about the size of golf balls. They clean it, they leave it laying out in the field. 3 weeks before it's time for the oysters to spawn, they go put the material in the water so that the spats can set on a clean material. And I remind the board that currently most of the oysters here that are wild-caught oysters are being bought from Louisiana and brought here. So obviously it's working. I guess my big thing is any discussion of limestone might prompt me to have more discussion for this board. That's all I'll say.
It seems like they could do a sole source provider.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Something.
not put it out to bid and all
Yes.
that stuff, because if you don't have the source, then you can't be the provider.
No.
But the state agencies are running these restoration efforts,
Yes.
and they don't have the expertise that people that have done this all their life, which I'm not an oysterman. Our company I work for does have their own private leases, and the man that taught me about all that, which is no longer with us,
Yep.
have a ton of experience at it, just as your daddy does.
Oh, yeah.
But they're not taking no
No.
leadership or recommendations from people that have actually lived the life and
Right.
worked on that bay
Mhm.
and learned about it. We're born and raised here. We're born and raised around the industry. And, you know, I will say that the FSU has tried to get me involved in going to these meetings, providing some of this leadership for them. But when they first started it, they wanted a meeting every day. We had a county commission meeting, or the day right after the county commission meeting,
Yep.
which means I had to miss 2 days work at my other job consecutively.
Yep.
So you know, I tried to get that worked out, and eventually I turned that over to you because I just could not get the time to go and express my opinions and provide some of the leadership that I thought they needed. I wish I didn't have to work another job, but I do.
Yeah.
You know, so it is what it is. But you know, I hope everything turns out good for us. And I know there's a lot of good people on that committee that understands the way I feel about things, and I think some of those people do too. I just hope they're being vocal and trying to provide that leadership for that committee, because you know, there's nothing like the experience you gain by living
Yes.
the lifestyle.
Yeah. Well, I also wish to, Commissioner, and you're right, that historically, and this is FWC period, they're not going to take industry knowledge and run with it. They're not going to do it. They never have done it. They're never going to do it. It's the same thing that's hashed over again when you start talking about cutting down the size of the white shrimp net to 16 feet like they've done recently. Well, white shrimp can swim away from the pressure. You got that short a net, they're gonna feel it coming and they're gonna swim away from it. So you just outlaw white shrimping in Gulf and Franklin County by having to use that net.
And the oyster's already gone.
Yeah, so, you know, it's just one more step. So that's why I wanted to make sure we discuss this publicly today, because I am diametrically opposed to any more limestone in that bay unless it's just for, like Alan said today, they're testing different materials. I'm fine with that. But if it's gonna be solely limestone, I'm definitely not good with it. So,
Well, I encourage you to get, to talk to the people at FSU
Yep.
to verify. I know he said it was a $500,000 experimental contract, but it will be leading to a much larger
Yes.
reshelling thing. So
Yes.
now's the time to make sure we get the
Right.
right experiment going.
well, and that's another reason I want to have a discussion today, because I didn't want to be speaking for myself. We are a board. So that's, you know what I mean? I want to, anyway, that's what we're trying to accomplish.
Mr. Chairman, just, it seems to me coming up in June, we ought to be asking FWC for a progress report on how the oysters are doing in our bay.
Yeah.
They've shut it down now. Let's see how it looks in 6 months. Can we get some sort of affirming, a letter out to them asking for a
I'm
progress
sure we
report?
can. Michael, we can ask them to,
Jim Estes?
Yep, yep.
Okay.
Jim, or I think someone's taking his place now.
Yeah, the new Jim Estes is a guy named Alan Pierce, but it's not this one.
Oh, really?
Yep.
How do we know that?
We need to meet him. Yeah, right.
I know it.
Okay,
But
so
anyway,
can we
fair
do-
enough. I just wanted to make sure it was
Good.
discussed today and the board was aware of some of the issues. In case you're asked, you won't be like, I don't know.
Yeah.
One more comment while we're on this
Yes.
subject. When you're talking about the oyster shells and the low river flows, so much salt water coming into the bay, which raises the salinity, that's what causes your oyster shells to deteriorate.
Yes.
So we may have to find a different material to put out there, because your oyster shells are not going to survive in a high salinity atmosphere.
No.
Have you ever been scalloping in St. Joe Bay? Have you ever seen an oyster shell over there? No, and you won't, because it's all salt water.
Right.
The salinity is too high. And you know, you've heard time and time again people talking about, well, BP killed the bay and BP done this, and you know, all the stuff they sprayed caused the shit. That's not what happened. It's high salinity. So you're not getting enough fresh water down the Apalachicola River to cause the right salinity balance, and that causes your oyster shells to decay. So we may not be able to use oyster shells anymore if we keep with the high salinity of the bay.
Yeah.
And somebody asked me the other day after the court ruling, the Supreme Court ruling, well, does that mean Apalachicola River is going to run dry? I said, no, it's just going to be real salty. Because as the fresh water dissipates, it'll be filled with salt water.
Yeah.
Then you'll have all your sharks and everything else. And you know, I don't know where the bay's going to go. I don't see, you know, maybe it will survive without the fresh water, but I don't see it. I see it becoming more of a, you're going to start catching scallops instead of oysters, because it's 80% salt water.
Yeah.
And it's going to make it very hard to bring the bay back like we always did. And if you realize during the Supreme Court ruling, they said it was caused by two factors: not reshelling the bay anymore and overharvesting. That was what was in the decree that the Supreme Court sent down. And we still don't reshell the bay. It's over. Department of Agriculture sold the tug, they sold the barge. They don't go around and get oysters. But the reason they don't go around and get oyster shells we put back in the bay is because we don't shuck oysters no more. Everything goes out to the half shell bars. So there goes your oyster shells too. And when these oyster shells come from out of state, then they have to buy those from the dealers that actually shuck those out of state oysters. They're not entitled to them. Back in the old days, whenever we caught those oysters out of Apalachicola Bay and shucked them at a regular shucking house, then the state was able to come by and pick those oyster shells up because they belonged to the state. Now we're shucking Alabama and Louisiana and Texas oysters in other parts. Those shells belong to the dealer that bought those oysters and brought them in here and then shucked them out. They don't belong to the state. So that's another whole issue of why we don't shell and do all the things. The state didn't want to buy the oyster shells to put back in Apalachicola Bay
Yeah.
for us to harvest them and then send the shell, you know, shells and all off to oyster bars. So that's another issue of where the shelling went to. But I've always said that if we got the bay to come back the way it used to be, and it was just flourishing like all get out, but if you don't put nothing back, you're going to be right back where you at now.
Yeah.
I mean, And I always use the analogy in my checking account, because if I don't make a deposit, I just can't keep withdrawing.
No, you cannot.
At some point, I gotta put money in before I can keep writing checks and drawing money out. And that's the way I see the bay, and I don't know how it's all gonna do, how it's all going to come back. I hope it does, but I'm just not real sure.
Well, it'll be interesting, Commissioner Parrish, and the rest of you, Commissioner. It'd be interesting to see just how serious they get about the restoration effort, if they're going to try to address things that they know are harmful to the bay. You know what I mean? Because it's not one thing, okay? Yeah, it'd have been good if they would have ruled in our favor with the water wars, but one issue is not going to fix our bay. It's about 9 or 10 of them. So if they're not willing to try to start addressing all the issues that affect our bay, you know, then we're just putting limestone out there and completely killing it and getting it over with, you know, so.
I agree with you.
You know, so that's all I'm trying to say. Anyway, I wasn't trying to belabor it, but I did want to bring it up so it could be discussed publicly. The public could be aware of what's going on and what's potentially happening.
Good.
All right, sir, you're up next.
All right. Well, Commissioners, I've submitted a report and a supplement. The only action item I have for board discussion is a renewal of a 2010 proposal for the county to consider adopting an ordinance for the maintenance and repair of private roads. The essential condition would be that 100% of the county's actual cost of those maintenance and repairs of a private unpaved road would have to be paid in advance based on essentially an estimate originally created by the road department and then confirmed by the county's engineer. Is the process I've proposed for the board to consider. For an individual person with an unpaved road, essentially I've proposed for your consideration a $1,000 cap, but that is the same $1,000 cap from the original 2010 ordinance. For a private subdivision with an unpaved road, a $5,000 cap annually. These would be fiscal year caps, but again, those were the caps from 2010. As you can see, I've provided you with a red line with some additional comments updating the 2010 ordinance. You have attached a rate sheet that I received from the road department for materials, equipment cost, and labor cost. I don't really have any presentation beyond that summary unless the board has additional questions for me, but it would be a process in summary that would allow the board to provide some relief to these individuals with private roads that were not built to county standards. They were not part of a platted subdivision. Essentially, it's a method to help people solve problems that they've created for themselves for access to property at their expense and not at the expense of the public. That is my presentation.
And Attorney Schuler, so what the action that the board could take would be moving it to a public hearing, correct?
If that is the will of the board.
Okay. I do think that's a good thing to do. Again, it's a public hearing. The public can weigh in on it before the board takes any action. I do think, though, that just adding up, I just played around with the numbers a little bit last night, looking at the FEMA designations for the different things that the county could provide, as far as a dump truck driver and all the different things. I think we're going to have to revamp the numbers a little bit. They're going to have to be increased a little bit because if you had something that required an hour of labor and it took a load of lime rock and a load of the black soil, you know, and then somebody to spread it and somebody to grade it, well, you're about $1,500 in an hour, you know. So I think the number might be too low given the other numbers that are following, but that was my only observation of it.
Okay.
So, pleasure of the board.
I would move to adopt that. I've got some
To a
examples.
public hearing?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, so we have a motion by Commissioner Bolt,
I'll second.
second by Commissioner Ward. Any discussion before we vote?
Just one comment. Probably, I don't know how many years ago, we addressed the same issue, the board did. And you have to be aware that during that particular public hearing, there were a lot of private contractors coming in and saying, now we're having to compete with government as a private enterprise. So there was a lot of concern from different contractors that came to the board at that time and said, you know, now we're having to compete against our own government and this is what we do for a living.
That's just a single comment. I remember that. I don't remember how many years ago that was, but I think they had a legitimate right.
Yeah.
That they're having to compete with the natural business is, and that's what they do for a living, and compete with the government to provide those same services. We'll see during public comment.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, during the public hearing, yeah, because but on the same token, none of those private contractors are tasked with the safety and health and well-being of the residents of the county. So we'll see how it goes.
Attorney Schuler, you're proposing this ordinance that it gives the property owners the standards of practice to convert their private road into a county standard. Is that correct?
No.
Thank you for asking that question.
No,
Let me
it
clarify.
doesn't.
Absolutely not.
No.
No. It is to maintain a minimum level of access so that emergency vehicles can access.
I see.
School buses, things of that nature. But the ordinance that I've drafted, one of the changes that I've added is to make sure that the county is not required to bring the road up to county road standards. It would be a minimum safe passage, essentially.
Okay, I'm glad.
For example, there was a road over on Island Drive that's a private road that the county at some point took ownership of decades ago. It's not wide enough to be a county road according to your county road standards and your subdivision ordinance. Doesn't have the road base. It doesn't meet the road standards, but it is one of these pre-existing non-conforming county roads. So it would be a very limited, the proposal in this ordinance would be very limited to just filling the potholes, grading the road, at the expense of the individuals that own the private road or the individuals in a private subdivision which has not been properly recorded. Keeping in mind that we've had a subdivision ordinance for 30 years with road standards, and if people would have followed the law and built their roads according to the road standards, they wouldn't have these problems. They would already have been built to county standards, they would have been dedicated to the county, and then the county would have been maintaining it. So this is, as the chairman has pointed out, essentially a minimum threshold to maintain safe passage for emergency vehicles. That's it.
I see. Yeah. Okay, very good. Thank you.
Yeah, because Commissioner Bowe, we also had some residents had made me aware in the last couple of months in one particular road in the county, they'd been told by like the trash companies that they no longer come down their road to pick up their trash because they couldn't get down the road.
I see.
You know what I mean? So it's those kind of issues you're trying to address, because we need, if people have trash contracts, they need to have their trash picked up. It needs to be taken away from their home. That's safe, that's healthy, it's sanitary. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? That passes unanimously.
All right, any other questions for me, Mr. Chairman, or other members of the board?
Just real quick, Mr. Chairman, Attorney Schuler, thank you for your work on the houses at 2036 and 2626. 2626, it's no longer a nuisance as it's been demolished, but
yes.
Just real quick, 2036, the homeowner adjacent to this property reached out to me and was concerned, asking for an update. I gave her an update of what was going on. They're concerned, her and along the other homeowners, if we have a hurricane, the debris possibly, being a way, the wind picking it up and pushing it over there on their houses. And I explained to her that, I know the process, it's a long process to get this done. I realize that this particular homeowner has not responded to our letters, and I hate that, I guess basically what I'm asking is what do we do from this point? She's obviously not responding.
She has until April the 30th on the extended deadline, because I sent one letter, put her on notice, gave her a deadline to respond, heard nothing, so I thought as an abundance of caution and due process, send a second notice, which has been done. That the deadline on the second notice is April the 30th, and after that, then the lawsuit will be filed. We'll have to track her down and serve her with a lawsuit. It's not going to be completed before hurricane season commences, and I doubt, given the way the court schedule works under COVID and things of that nature, as you heard the warden say, is effectively the court system shut down. I don't think it will be completed before hurricane season is over, but the process will be started. And it does grind. I mean, I've done this for almost 30 years, and it is very rare for any lawsuit to be resolved quickly once it's started. Usually it grinds. So.
And just for clarification for this homeowner, it's not like we can just go and demolish that house without any kind of due diligence on the owner's part.
No,
that would be put us in a lawsuit from the homeowner, basically tearing her property apart without her.
We are going to follow the law, and we're not allowed to just simply go demolish someone's, even though we know it's a destroyed property and a health hazard based on the report from our building official. There's still a process of law that we have to go through. The Constitution says we cannot deprive people of their property without due process. So.
I just wanted that clarified for the record. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Anyone else have something for Attorney Schuler? We've made it this far. All right, Commissioner comments? Meeting adjourned.